Hi Collective, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am the Nosy Witch and this is my channel, Nosy Witch Tarot. I do collective pick a card readings here on YouTube. Just a bit of a heads up, my readings do tend to be fairly long, they tend to be deep dives. That said, I do try and include some shorter readings here and there for those of you who enjoy that kind of thing, or for those of you whose time is a little bit more limited. That said, I do like to waffle, I do like to give lots of tangible examples throughout my readings, and I like to go on tangents. That is just who I am, so just be aware of that going in. Anyway, with that in mind, happy Leo season! The title of today's reading is The Lionsgate Portal, the door that's about to open for you. Now, before we get into today's reading, I just wanted to quickly announce the winners of my dossier giveaway. If you remember, a couple of videos ago, I collaborated with Dossier and opened a giveaway. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will leave it linked in the description below so you can check it out after this reading. But I am here to announce our winners. A huge congratulations to Scorpio Empress 10 and Alexia. If that's you, please send me an email at nosywitchtarot@gmail.com so I can pass your details over to the Dossier team and arrange for your prize. A huge thank you to Dossier for allowing me to host this giveaway, and thank you to every single one of you who entered and who continues to support my channel. The great thing about engaging with a small channel, especially when it comes to giveaways and things like that, is that because I have such a small audience, you are more likely to win. So yeah, I genuinely wish I could send a prize to everyone. I appreciate you very much, but yeah, with that said, thanks for supporting. Congratulations again to our winners, and now let's jump into today's reading. Today's reading is all about the new paradigm you are stepping into, a door that is opening in your life, and the new reality that's emerging from behind that door. Now, as you know, the Lionsgate Portal is something that is celebrated every year in August during Leo season. Spiritually, it's often associated with awakening, with manifestation, with stepping into your personal power, and just this idea of embracing your most authentic self. And because it falls during Leo season, it also carries that beautiful, fearless lion energy, that courage, that confidence, that strength. And yeah, it's just really all about stepping into who you're meant to be. Historically speaking, it's also connected with the rising star of Sirius, which has long been associated with abundance and renewal and new beginnings. And then, of course, we have the numerology of the number 8. It's that transformation energy. And when you turn it on its side, it looks like the infinity symbol. So there's this beautiful symbolism surrounding infinite potential and infinite possibilities, and a whole new chapter unfolding. Whether you personally connect with the Lionsgate Portal as something very deeply spiritual, or you simply like to think of it as a metaphor for stepping into a brand new chapter of your life, that is the energy we're going to be tapping into throughout today's reading. And in accordance with that sunshine, lighting up the room, Leo energy, that main character energy, I'm going to be opening your reading with an energy check using the card or cards that you chose on the thumbnail. And we're going to be using the Work Your Light Oracle cards by Rebecca Campbell today. I love these cards so much. I've actually had them for a really long time, but I don't think I've used them very much on this channel. I definitely have used them before, not as much as I should though. This deck is really special to me, but this is a special reading. So we're going to be looking at the card or cards you picked, using that as a check of your overall energy, maybe reading a little bit from the guidebook, and then we're going to be moving on to the tarot portion of your reading. And that's where we're going to be looking more at the story that's unfolding for you, this new portal that is opening, the door you're stepping through. And we're going to be looking at what's on the other side of that door and maybe how it differs from how life has been for you recently. It's what you're moving towards and the powerful ways that you are transforming. I sadly did not have any lion stickers, but I do have some cute lemon themed stickers to use, which I actually thought was quite fitting for a summer reading. So I did what I could, guys. I have also chosen a couple of cat themed tarot decks to use today to try and represent that Leo feline energy. I've also tried to pick some of the brighter decks that I own for this reading, to really tap into that sunshine. I want the cards to sort of represent this bright light, this portal that we're walking towards and we're not looking back. So over here we have Pile 1. Pile 1's card is the initiation, rite of passage, crossing the threshold. We also have the lemonade jug, and we're going to be using the Weird Cat Tarot for this pile. Over here, we have pile 2 with the card Yes, Just Say Yes, with the lemon cupcake sticker, and we're going to be using the Inspired Neon Tarot. Over here, we have pile 3, Birthing a New Age, Birthing New Creations, Dreaming a New World into Being, with the Bunch of Lemons sticker, and we're going to be using the Rainbow Tarot. Here we have pile 4 with the Priestess card, How Are You Being Called to Step Up and Lead, with the Lemon Macaroons sticker, and we are going to be using the Blooming Cat Tarot for this pile. And over here we have pile 5 with Warrior Woman, Have You Answered Your Deepest Calling, with the Lemon Ice Cream sticker, and we're going to be using the Modern Witch Tarot for this pile. You are very welcome to choose more than one pile today if more than one pile is calling to you. Once you have chosen your pile, please head to the pinned comment or the description box below. Timestamps will be listed there and they will take you straight to the start of your chosen reading. Gentle disclaimer, these are general readings on the internet and you do not have to accept anything as your story if it simply isn't. Always take what resonates for you and leave the rest for somebody else. Not every example I use is going to resonate, nor would I expect it to. It's just about the overall energy, and if the overall energy doesn't resonate for you either, that is completely okay. Not every reading is for every person, and you're always welcome to come back to the next one. There are so many amazing readers on YouTube, and if my style or if my readings aren't for you, I genuinely hope you find somebody who is for you. My intention with these readings is always to spread joy, offer hope and uplift people, but I will also always be honest about what I'm seeing and what I'm sensing. These readings are meant to be fun, they're never intended to replace your own judgment though. If you ever find that tarot is making you feel more anxious than comforted, I'd always encourage you to click off and look after yourself first and foremost. With that said, you are always welcome to share what resonated in the comments. Liking, commenting, and engagement in general are the very best ways to support a tiny channel like mine, and I promise it never ever goes unnoticed. You can never overshare too much with me as long as you do so kindly and respectfully. However, unkindness and disrespect will be banished, rebuked, and returned straight back to sender. But yeah, if anything does resonate with you or your story, please let me know. It genuinely means more to me than you could ever know. If you enjoy the reading, please like, comment, subscribe, share, hype. Those are the very best ways to support me. I appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to do that. But if you can't do one of those things and you're just here to listen today, thank you so much for spending a part of your day with me. Really hope you enjoy today's reading. I hope it leaves you feeling excited for your future and for the new door that's opening in your life. I'll see you at your chosen pile collective. Hi Pile 1 Collective. If you chose the initiation card, Rite of Passage, Crossing the Threshold, and you chose this lemonade jug sticker, and you chose the Weird Cat Tarot, which we're going to be using today, then you're in the right place. Welcome to your reading, friends. If you want to know what to expect from today's reading, I would recommend checking out my introduction as I go through absolutely everything there. I will also leave some details in the pinned comment below. I recommend checking out at least one of those just so you know what to expect from this reading today. But if you just want to get straight into it, today's reading is the Lionsgate Portal, the door that's about to open for you. So let's have a look at this first card that you were drawn to, this initiation card. So getting straight in with our energy check, I mean, could there possibly be more perfect imagery than this card when it comes to this idea of like stepping through a portal? But specifically, stepping through a portal to something better, right? Probably not. I don't think we could have a better card to represent that. And I promise you, by the way, I did not actually choose these Work Your Light cards, consciously at least. I literally just shuffled them until one fell out. That's often how I choose my cards. And this is the first one that happened to fall out. So the synchronicities are already pretty off the charts, crazy. But yeah, the first message I'm getting, even just glancing at the imagery on this card, it's that what is coming is just so much better than what has passed to Pile 1. And if you could see the other side, and you could see what we could see, why did I want to say we and not I? I really do feel like when I'm saying we, it's because we're including your guides. Like, you have multiple spirit guides. That's so weird. I wanted to say we. Honestly, I'm not talking about my multiple personalities, Pile 1. I'm talking about your guides. But yeah, if you could see what we could see, I'm getting there wouldn't be any hesitation. There wouldn't be this need to question whether you should step through this door. But because you can't quite see what's on the other side yet, there is some element of uncertainty. There's this fear of the unknown. it's almost like what you're stepping towards could be, in theory, oh, I'm getting like it's like Schrodinger's cat. It could be a complete utopia, but it could also be a dystopia. So, you know, like the concept of, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, I don't even know if I'm like explaining it correctly, but the whole thing about like the cat is both dead and alive at the same time. It's like this with this portal, like it could be both things. You just don't know. So there's this hovering around the threshold because you're not sure whether what's waiting for you is actually going to be better than what you've already experienced. And even if where you are right now or where you've been is or has been really difficult, there is still some sense of safety within that because it's a familiar kind of difficult. It's kind of like, yeah, but these are hardships I already know how to deal with. This is familiar bad. I know what to do with this type of bad. Whereas if I step through this door, it could be amazing. It could be incredibly difficult. But either way, I might not know what to do with it. Whether it's amazing or difficult, I still won't know what to do with it. I'm also getting something about the eye of the storm. I keep hearing that phrase. And it's almost like you have been walking through this storm and you're still kind of trudging through this dark tunnel or this cave. And it's very boggy, it's thick, it's difficult to navigate. But at least it's some form of shelter, right? Like, at least you can kind of camp down there if you need to because you're not right in the middle of the storm anymore. But actually, if you just went a little bit further and you took the risk on that open door, that portal, you don't even know how good it could get, power one. And the problem is you can't really see that yet. There's some kind of veil. For some reason, this cave is really reminding me of Ursula's lair from The Little Mermaid. So I don't know whether Disney or Disney villains, mermaids, sirens are significant to you in any way, power. Maybe some of you have a lot of water energy in your chart or you're drawn to water, you like to be by water. I don't know, but that's immediately what it made me think of. I'm actually getting something else coming through as well, because every time I keep looking down at this card and I keep wanting to say invitation instead of initiation. So for some of you, again, there is this hovering around a threshold because you're uncertain whether you belong somewhere or whether you're even invited. It's almost like you feel like you have to wait for somebody to open the door for you before you're allowed to actually walk through it. Now, this next message won't be for everybody, but if you are familiar with anything about human design, if you've done your chart before, some of you could be projectors. I want to say that as an extra confirmation. Now, I don't know a ton about human design myself, but I know a little bit, and I'm a projector. And part of the whole projector strategy is something called waiting for the invitation. And I actually get the impression that people sometimes misunderstand what that means because it's not really about waiting for permission. It's not about not having agency. Like, those things are not the same thing. But if we start feeling like we have to be given permission before taking action, there's this feeling of like, oh, you know, maybe I'm not wanted here. That energy can start to sort of creep in. And that can look like, you know, holding yourself back because you don't want to put yourself out there. It can look like not sharing your knowledge or not stepping into the spotlight even when you are kind of invited, because to you it feels like you're crashing a party that you weren't invited to. Like, everyone's looking at you and thinking, what are they doing here? They don't know what they're talking about. And the human design side of that doesn't have to resonate at all, but it just reminded me of that kind of projector energy, and that permission and invitation are not the same thing. But if that overall feeling kind of resonates, like of you holding yourself back or feeling like somebody has to specifically give you permission to do something, if you're questioning whether you're actually allowed to step through this door, I really think this initiation is asking you to stop waiting. So are you waiting for somebody to invite you somewhere, pal one? Do you know what this door is? Because I actually don't think this portal has just suddenly appeared out of nowhere. I feel like you've been staring at it for a while. I feel like you've seen it before. It's sort of been there, kind of sparkling and glistening in the distance, and you've definitely glanced at it more than once. Maybe even just in your peripheral, but you've still been quite unsure. But yeah, I also think with rite of passage, there is this feeling that some things we simply have to go through before we can get to the good stuff on the other side. And, you know, some rites of passage are beautiful and some of them are heartbreaking, but they're still important because they shape who we become. You know, it's just an example. Almost everybody, by the time we reach adulthood, we've all well, most of us anyway, have experienced some version of heartbreak, as just one example, right? Because, you know, whether it was your first relationship or your first friendship breakup, the first time that somebody really hurt you, or the first time you hurt somebody else, whatever it was, it probably felt enormous at the time. But when we look back years later, you know, so many of us think, you know, I can't believe I was so devastated over that person, or maybe depending on how long ago it was, you're thinking, who even was my first heartbreak? I don't even remember now, because so much life has happened since then. But at the time, it was monumental. That doesn't mean that it wasn't real, that it didn't matter, because it absolutely did. But the point is, there was still so much good waiting for us afterwards, but, you know, we couldn't see it whilst we were living through it. And that's exactly what this card feels like to me. It feels like you've gone through something that was genuinely really difficult, but it was also shaping you into the person you needed to become. It taught you things that only lived experience can teach you. And although that probably didn't make it feel any easier at the time, I do think you're getting to the point now where you're about to understand why you had to experience it in the first place, because there really is so much good waiting for you on the other side of this. I do just want to read from the guidebook before we get into the main body of your reading. So let's have a look at what the guidebook says. Some of the most sacred initiation chambers and temples look scary from the outside, but are breathtakingly beautiful on the inside. This represents the journey that the soul pilgrim is required to take to reach somewhere sacred, but only the initiated can enter. Perhaps that's where you are right now. You are being tested, initiated because you are headed somewhere sacred. Initiations require that we cross the threshold from one world or state of being to the next. We are called to face what scares us and have to be willing to lose it all in order to gain a new way of being, of safety, of security, of depth, of meaning. Initiations, like rites of passage, mark a shift from one age to the next and can take place because of emotional turmoil, great loss, grief, or devastation. But it is through the seeming hardship that our heart cracks open and our spirit is invested to step forward. We take the sacred voyage into more of who we are and who we came here to be. It can be painful and scary, but once we begin the journey, we can be more ourselves than ever before. If you are in the middle of an initiation right now, you will get through it, and one day soon you will bless the thing that broke you down and cracked you open, because the world needs you open. You are going somewhere sacred. It will be worth it, and you're closer than you think. Work your light action, rite of passage, cross the threshold. Okay, I think that's such a beautiful message. I think it's kind of reinforcing a lot of what we've already picked up on. And although it maybe doesn't feel like it right now, Pile 1, I really do think you're so much closer to that other side than you realise. But what we're going to do now is put this card to one side, and we're going to have a look at the tarot we pulled for you to elaborate on this story. I hope this is resonating for you guys so far. But yeah, let's have a look at your tarot. I'm very curious. Okay, so starting over here on the left, Pile 1, we have got the Six of Swords. And clarifying the Six of Swords, we've got the Emperor. And over here, we have the High Priestess. And clarifying the High Priestess, we have the Page of Swords. We have got the Seven of Cups. And clarifying the Seven of Cups, we've got Death. And we have got the Magician. Oh my god, so much Major Arcana. And clarifying the Magician, we've got the Lovers. So much Major Arcana, what the heck. And some more oracle cards for you guys. We have number 26, Health Checkup. We have got Prioritize a Reflection. We have got Torchbearer, Light the Way. And we have got Colour. Okay, gorgeous. Beautiful. This tells such a gorgeous, gorgeous story, Pile 1. There is this bright new world on the other side of this portal, Pile 1. There is a blooming, colourful, bright world that feels alive again, and it feels abundant with so much joy. I also love the synchronicity that I'm seeing between this colour card and the Lovers right next to it. There's something so harmonious about this whole spread. And, you know, actually with the cat on this colour card, his tail, it almost looks like a peacock, right? And peacocking immediately makes me think of this idea of showing off. But specifically, I'm hearing the phrase, show them what you're made of. So Pile 1, I really don't think, first of all, I don't think this is the time to be humble, all right? This is the time to show your stuff. This is the time to be willing to step into the spotlight a little bit more. And is there any better time to step through that portal into this energy than during Leo season? I really don't think there is. But yeah, more than anything, I really think this portal is about you guys becoming more of your own authority. This is absolutely about stepping up and initiating, which is interesting because you chose the initiation card, but it's about like taking aligned and tangible action, especially when it comes to something you've maybe been putting off for a while. And I don't say that with any judgment whatsoever if that's the case, because there could be something adjacent to, I want to say imposter syndrome going on here. It could also be that you've been overwhelmed by having too many. Sorry, I'm actually just going to cover her up because we have some road titties on this card and I don't know how YouTube feels about that. So she's covered now, no boobies, sadly. But yeah, sorry, what was I saying? You could have been overwhelmed by having too many options, especially with that Seven of Cups, and not knowing which one is the right one to choose is something I'm getting. But ultimately, when you step through this portal, you're stepping into the Emperor's energy. You're becoming the person who is in charge of their own life. And I think that's where your story starts. The first thing I do want to say, and this feels like quite a practical message more than anything, if there is one small thing that you guys have been avoiding, you've been refusing to look at it, you've been putting it off, you've been telling yourself you'll deal with it tomorrow or you'll deal with it another day, but you notice that it's kind of been taking up space in your brain a lot of the time, even if it's in the back of your mind, I actually think the first step is doing that small thing. And I know that's easier said than done, right? Like if it was that easy, we'd all have done that one thing that we know we've been putting off. I get it. But I do wonder if some of you have maybe underestimated how much that one little thing has been preventing you from moving on to the bigger things. It's almost like it's sitting somewhere in the background, but it's still using and feeding on your mental energy. And it's like, once you get that thing out of the way, it might not seem like a big deal, but suddenly you will find you've got a lot more space to focus on what actually matters. So for some of you, and obviously I'm just using one example here, and I'm picking the example that it's coming through on the card, but this could literally be something like a health checkup or a routine appointment that you've been meaning to book, but you haven't got around to it. Maybe it's kind of built up in your head over time because you haven't been for ages and now it feels like it's going to be this huge catastrophic thing. And firstly, I want to say I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as bad as you think it will be. And secondly, I think once you've done it, it's just going to be this massive weight off your shoulders, just this huge sense of relief where you're like, oh, thank God, I've finally done that. And now I don't have to think about it again for another year or however long it is. So if finances and time allow and you've been putting something like that off, you know, minor things I'm thinking of like a dental checkup or your smear test or something like that, whatever it is you've had that letter or phone call about and you got it weeks ago or months ago or even years ago and you still haven't done it, I actually would take this as your little nudge to do that, because I genuinely think once you've done that one thing, it's almost as though your brain goes, right, now we can move on to the important stuff. Now we can get to the bigger stuff, the stuff that actually matters. But yeah, speaking about that health checkup card, I'm actually also seeing something about a brand new identity or something about like a dual identity. It feels a little bit like somebody reinventing themselves, or there's this sense of you being one person by day and another by night, like a superhero or something. I don't know, pal. I'm actually, maybe that was a bit of an out there example, like, I don't know, maybe you are superheroes, I don't know, but I'm thinking more of like, let's try and give a realistic example, Nosy Witch. So like in the career world, in the professional world, if we go back to that idea of like imposter syndrome, I don't know why this is coming through. I think it's because when I look at her face, this could just be me the way I'm reading it, which, you know, we all interpret things in different ways. That's obviously, you know, the point of tarot and why there's so many readers. But when I look at her face, obviously she's smiling, like she's got a little bit of a smirk on, but there's something about the intensity of her gaze, and in my mind it's that kind of expression where she's putting on this mask of like, oh, I know what I'm doing, like I'm the doctor, I'm here to do a surgery, but in the back of her head she's thinking like, oh shit, what am I doing? Yeah, so I'm picturing a doctor walking into a room where, you know, they've suddenly got to deal with this emergency situation, and obviously, you know, they do know what they're doing, they train to be a doctor, they know exactly what they're doing, they know how to do their job, they're a professional. That's why they've got the badge and they've got the ID that literally says, you know, trust me, I'm a doctor. But inside, they're still kind of thinking, shit, like, have I got this? Have I got this? Do I know what I'm doing? Like, what am I doing? Why am I here? So there could be something about that with you. And again, it's not that you're not qualified or that you're not capable. It's more that you're stepping into a situation you've never been in before. So of course it's going to feel unfamiliar. But I actually think this portal, this initiation, is the very first step of that journey. Like, you are probably going to feel a little bit out of your depth at first, Power One. But I do still think it is going to come into alignment and it is going to make sense the more you do it. Because underneath all of that, there is this part of you that really wants to step up. It wants to be more authoritative. It wants to take the lead. It wants to take this aligned action rather than having to constantly question whether you're ready or whether you're good enough. So I think with prioritized reflection as well, the first question I want to ask you is, what have you been walking past every single day but refusing to look at? What is the thing, Power One? And if we sort of carry on with that health checkup metaphor, and I'm just using this as a metaphor, as an example, it doesn't have to be this for you, but I'm thinking about somebody finding a new growth or like a skin tag or something on their face, right? But they don't get it looked at by a clinician. And this growth grows and grows and grows until eventually this person has to actively avoid looking in the mirror because they don't want to acknowledge it's there. So they're looking down every time they pass the mirror. They won't even look at it, like they refuse. Now, obviously, I'm not meaning this literally, but I do think this is asking, okay, Power One, what are you not looking at? Is there a side of yourself that's been trying to come out for a really, really long time? Is there something you've been wanting for yourself that you've been scared to admit? Because to me, this really feels like a card about looking very honestly at yourself, figuring out, what do you actually want? Who do you want to be? What do you want your life to look like? And it's saying, don't be afraid to want what you want. And also don't be afraid to light the way, because that's exactly what this torchbearer card feels like to me. This is allowing yourself to become the initiator. This is allowing yourself to be the one holding the torch. You are not waiting for somebody else to walk ahead of you anymore. You're not waiting for somebody else to go first to tell you it's safe or to give you permission before you take the first step. You are the one lighting your own path and leading the way. And yeah, that's probably going to feel scary at first. Of course it is, because it's walking into the unknown. But I honestly think it's going to turn out so much better than you expect. And yeah, I just keep hearing that phrase, let them see what you're made of. And actually, even with this colour card and the cat's tail, I'm getting this image of somebody wearing a really fancy coat made from this beautiful, expensive material, this very bougie coat. And they're saying, like, feel this, feel what it's made of. That's good quality, right? It's good quality. So I really think there's something here about, it's not about the coat, it's about showing the world what you're made of. Like, you are the good quality material, you are something a little bit special, a little bit bougie, Power One. But I also think this portal is, it's giving you the opportunity to show yourself what you're made of as well. It's not just about other people, right? But yeah, there's something really healing about stepping into your own leadership qualities, especially with the Six of Swords, Power One. This feels like a genuine journey away from everything you've been through previously. And it feels like this change that's happening, it doesn't just transform you, it actually changes the environment surrounding you as well, is a strong message that I'm getting. For some of you, that could literally be like moving out of physically a toxic situation. This portal you're stepping into, it could facilitate a trip or some time away, or you guys just finally getting the chance to properly rest and heal from something. But what's interesting is I'm not seeing this as being just about rest. It also feels like discipline. Not discipline in the sense of like punishing yourself or forcing yourself to be productive 100% of the time, but discipline because you have decided you want your life to look different. It feels like, you guys listening to your own inner authority, really committing to yourself, really looking in and becoming the person who is this boss in their own life. I could definitely see this being somebody who suddenly becomes much better at sticking to a routine because they actually understand the why behind why they're doing it. It could also be that you're being asked to step up in some way. Maybe you guys are being expected or called to lead a project. Maybe this is you taking on more responsibility at work, or maybe you're just finding yourselves in a position where people naturally start looking to you. Whatever it is, it feels like you're drawing on a strength that's probably always been there, Power One, but you just haven't fully trusted it yet. You haven't leaned into it fully yet. And the example that keeps coming through, actually, I'm thinking of somebody moving from a workplace where they are constantly being micromanaged into doing something much more independent. Like if we go with that career example, that career theme, this could be you looking at a job that's a real step up from where you are now. Maybe this is a role that asks a lot more of you. Maybe it involves leading people in a way you're not used to, or leading something in a way you're not used to. And maybe your first reaction is like, oh, I don't know if I'm qualified for that. You know, it's a big step up from what I'm currently doing. Like, who said I could do that? And I actually think that's where the cave imagery from your first oracle card comes back in, because you could stay where you are. You could do that pile one, even if you don't enjoy it. It's familiar. You know what's expected of you every day. You know how to do your job. It's the familiar bad that we talked about earlier. This isn't me saying your job is bad. This might not be to do with your job at all. I'm just using this as an example. Somebody who doesn't like their job is the familiar bad, right? And then this new thing comes along, and suddenly they're thinking like, should I even start that? What if it's too difficult? What if I just never get the hang of it? What if I'm not good at this? But I actually wonder if part of the reason you guys have become so disengaged with where you are is because for some of you, it's like it isn't making the most of you anymore. That's the phrase I keep getting. They're not making the most of you. This isn't showing off your full skill set. It isn't really allowing you to do things your way. And I think whatever this new opportunity is, it does allow you those things. And this almost feels like this portal gives you the confidence to push past some of those limiting beliefs, because you decide to, if we use that example, to apply for the job or to start the project, to take the leap. And somewhere along the way, you realize, actually, I can do this. I'm fully capable. I don't need to ask permission. And I think, part one, that's going to be the making of you. It gets you so much further away from whatever has been stressful or painful or just generally weighing you down. For some of you, you know, this could even be something, as another example, it's something as simple as setting boundaries, right? Because it's funny, isn't it? When we hear the word discipline, we tend to think about getting up at 5 a.m. every day and sticking to a workout routine, or, you know, constantly making ourselves work harder. And yes, sometimes discipline does look like that. But sometimes discipline looks like saying no, especially if you are like a recovering people pleaser, as one example. Sometimes discipline is recognizing that you do deserve rest, that you don't have to be at everybody's beck and call all of the time. Because if you never allow yourself to recharge, eventually you haven't got anything left to give anyway. So this could look like you becoming more confident with your boundaries, leaning a little bit less on other people's opinions because you know those opinions have been keeping you stuck. This could be breaking old habits, or just making new commitments to yourself, and in the process you're letting go of some old baggage and just feeling so much lighter because of it. But yeah, for some of you, this could involve a literal journey over water, or it could involve a physical relocation, although obviously that won't be for everybody. But yeah, it's just going to feel like this huge sense of relief. And with the High Priestess and the Page of Swords, this very much feels like there's going to be more trust in your own intuition and your own gut feeling, because the Page of Swords is naturally very curious. They're a learner. They love exploring new ideas. They love asking questions. They love looking things up and trying to understand the world around them. And all of that is amazing. It is amazing until the mind just gets so busy that it starts drowning out the gut feeling. And I almost think that could be what's been happening here for some of you. It's like the mind gets involved and suddenly everything has to be analysed and questioned and double checked. And sometimes that can involve like looking outside of ourselves for answers that deep down we already know. The example I'm getting is somebody obsessively searching online for an answer to something they already have a feeling about. They already know because the intuition is there, but the mind gets in the way. So they keep searching and searching. And don't get me wrong here, online resources can be amazing. Books are amazing. Asking friends for advice is amazing. If you genuinely don't know something, absolutely go and find the information. That's what these resources are there for. But I think there is a difference between learning something you genuinely don't know and compulsively looking for reassurance about something you do already know deep down. And I actually think it's really easy to fall into those cycles, especially with the rise of AI, where it feels less like just doing a Google search and more like having something that resembles a conversation. You can ask the same question in 10 slightly different ways, hoping one answer will finally be the answer that makes you feel okay, the answer that makes you feel certain. But I actually don't think that is what's needed here. And what's funny is this cat on the Page of Swords is clawing at the tree, and I keep hearing the phrase, "you're barking up the wrong tree," because the answer isn't out there. It's not out there in the big wide world. It's already in you. And I almost wonder whether some of this is stimulation seeking as well, being like, oh, I'll just check one more thing, I'll just ask one more question, I'll just make sure, and then I'll feel okay. But I don't actually think you need to do that with this particular situation. And again, this is not saying you should never ask questions. There's absolutely no judgment in asking questions and educating yourself. But if this is something where your intuition has already spoken and no amount of check-in is going to change that, it's become more of a compulsion than a search for knowledge. I actually think this portal is helping you step away from that, because I really do think your intuition is on point, Pal1. Nothing can replace your intuition. And I'm not saying you've never been wrong about anything in your life, Pal1, but I think when you guys ignore your intuition, it's usually because your mind has talked you out of it. Your mind convinces you you're wrong when deep down you know you're not. So whatever this is, I think you already know, and it's going to be different for all of you, but I honestly don't think asking the same question over and over and over again in slightly different ways is going to give you the answer you're looking for, because the answer is already sitting in your body somewhere. And it feels like this portal is strengthening that inner knowing. There is this sense of, I just know, I just know. I keep hearing that, I just know. And instead of immediately doubting yourself, you are starting to trust it. I'm getting this feeling that this portal is kind of bringing some of your psychic gifts online. It's like you just know things about people without fully understanding why. You are going to be able to pick up on things intuitively. I actually just watched the film Disclosure Day, and it reminds me of, I think it's Emily Blunt's character, where she just suddenly knows things about people and starts saying them out loud, and everyone is just looking at her and they're in awe and they're wondering, like, how does she know that? That's the image I keep getting. It's almost like you're tuning into a wavelength that's always been there, but you're hearing it a lot more clearly now. And because of that, I also think this opens the door to much deeper conversations. It feels like you guys are communicating about more meaningful things. You're cutting through surface level stuff and getting straight to the heart of the things that really matter. There is something here about honest conversations opening up. It feels like you're ready for honest conversations, almost because deep down you already knew they were coming. For some of you, this could be a message, a letter, somebody reaching out kind of unexpectedly, although I don't even know if unexpectedly is the right word, because I think part of you was kind of expecting it, right? It's almost like you dreamt about it or it popped into your head the day before for no obvious reason, and then it happened. So yeah, I do think there's communication coming in. But more than that, I think there's this feeling of being like mentally prepared for whatever comes next, because yeah, you've been learning to trust your own intuition instead of talking yourself out of things. With the Seven of Cups clarified by Death, I think this portal is putting an end to some kind of illusion that you've been stuck in. It's bringing clarity, and that clarity is what allows you to have this fresh start and really move forward. Especially if you've been feeling kind of scattered, or you've been so busy thinking about all the different possibilities that you've struggled to fully take in what's actually in front of you. I think this is the end of that. It feels like you're becoming a lot more focused. You're not getting as easily distracted by every possible outcome or every, what if anymore. You're becoming somebody who values action and consistency over just endlessly thinking about everything that could happen. So if you're somebody who knows that they have a tendency to procrastinate, I actually think this is a really positive shift. And the interesting thing is, I really feel like you guys are not resisting this ending anymore. With that High Priestess, I think you already knew it was coming. You already knew what needed to happen. So when it finally does, it almost feels like a relief. It doesn't feel like a loss to me. It feels like the start of a new chapter, and I'm actually hearing the phrase a brave new world or a bold new world or something like that. This feels like you're finally closing one chapter so you can stop fearing the unknown and start getting really, really excited about what's waiting for you on the other side of the portal. I really love this Magician combined with the Lovers. This feels like somebody starting to really, truly understand, maybe for the first time ever, how much personal power and sovereignty they actually have. I'm also thinking about this concept of the conscious and the unconscious coming together. It's like you guys are really looking inside of yourselves and allowing these different parts of you to work together instead of constantly fighting each other. And because of that, when a big decision comes along, you guys are able to make it from a much more aligned, almost higher consciousness place. This feels like you guys are sort of reaching a crossroads, but instead of looking outside of yourself for the answer, you are listening to your own heart, and it just feels really, really sacred. It kind of feels like one of those decisions where afterwards, your whole life actually just starts to make a lot more sense because you know you chose the path that was actually meant for you. With the Magician, I'm actually also hearing as above, so below, as I'm looking at that. So it's like what you're creating internally starts reflecting externally and vice versa. So it feels like you're making choices that are already in support of the person you're trying to become. There's just something really harmonious about this whole spread to me. This feels like you guys are developing your skills. You are gaining this mastery over areas of your life that maybe used to feel completely out of your control at times. And you're realizing that you guys actually have far more influence over your life than you've been giving yourself credit for. And that's not me saying that you can control absolutely everything, because none of us can. But I do think you're starting to recognize what is actually within your control, and instead of pouring your energy into everything else, you're pouring it where it can genuinely make that difference. I also think you guys are actually going to find it much easier to concentrate. It's going to feel easier for you guys to turn ideas into tangible things. It's going to be easier to bridge the gap between what's happening inside your mind and what you are actually creating in the real world. You're becoming much more resourceful as well, even if you feel like you're starting with very little comparatively to others, or maybe that's how you perceive it. I'm actually hearing that phrase right now: when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, and he shows the lemonade jug. So it's like you are learning how to make the very best of whatever you've got in front of you, and somehow everything you touch starts carrying a little bit more intention behind it. And that is like the biggest transformation of all within this Pile 1, because it feels like the outside of your life is finally starting to reflect the inside. Your actions are matching your words, and your decisions are matching your values. And the person you are becoming is matching the person you've always felt you were underneath it all. Everything is just working in more and more harmony. And this just feels like, I want to say, just a really big yes from the universe. Like, yes, you've got it. Yes, you can do this. Everything's lining up. So if you've been wondering whether you should initiate something or step through this portal or take that first step, I really do think this reading is giving you your great big yes. So that's what I'm getting for you today, Pile 1, and that's where I'm going to leave you today, my loves. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to this reading. If you get a chance, if anything in this reading resonated for you, even if it was something tiny, could you please like the video, comment, hype, share, sub? Please, if you get a chance to comment, let me know what resonated, or just let me know which pile you picked if you don't feel comfortable telling me what resonated. That is the best way to support a tiny channel like mine, and it honestly means the world to me when you do any one of those things. But if you don't get a chance, thanks for listening anyway. I really appreciate you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one, Pile 1. Hi, Pile 2 Collective. If you chose the Yes, Just Say Yes card, and you chose the lemon cupcake sticker and the inspired neon tarot, then you are in the correct place. Welcome to your reading, friends. If you would like to know a little bit more about what to expect from today's reading, I would definitely recommend checking out my intro. I do go through absolutely everything there. I will also leave some details in the pinned comment below for your reference. I would recommend checking at least one of those out just so you know what to expect from this reading today. Or if you just want to jump straight in, today's reading is the Lionsgate Portal, the door that's about to open for you. So let's have a look at the first card you chose, which is this beautiful Yes, Just Say Yes card. So I would normally read from the guidebook at this point, just to kind of introduce the energy. But actually, I'm just going to show you, because flicking to your page for this yes card, this is all it says. Yes, 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 yes. I'm not going to read out all those yeses, but you get the idea, Pile 2. Yeah, I actually laughed when I saw that. Literally the entire page is just covered in the word yes. So I think it probably goes without saying that this portal opening up for you has something to do with the universe offering you an opportunity that they really want you to say yes to. It feels like you're going to get an opportunity to make some kind of decision, to accept something, and you're going to be given the choice of saying yes or no. And from what I'm seeing already, you know, they're definitely giving this great big yes. They want you to accept whatever this is, because I really think it's going to open up so many more opportunities than you currently realize. Now, obviously, this is just the energy check portion of the reading. So for some of you, this opportunity might have already presented itself. It might be something that's come up recently and maybe you've been sitting on it, wondering if it's the right thing to do, whether you should take the offer, whether it's the right timing. You could already kind of know about this, but for others of you, I think this is something that's maybe going to come into your life pretty soon. But either way, I feel like Spirit's encouraging you to embrace whatever this is with more open arms. Because I'm not gonna lie, I actually think some of you do already know what this is or what it could be. Like, if somebody has asked you a very literal yes or no question, right, and they're waiting for an answer from you, then I guess that's quite a straightforward and simple interpretation of this card. But for a lot of you, it could be something that's slightly more complex than that. It's going to be different for different people. And for those of you where, it's a bit more complex, it's not just like a straightforward yes or no. It feels like the universe has been trying to get you to accept something for a while now. Like they keep putting something in your path, or they keep creating opportunities for you to move in a certain direction. And maybe you've been missing the memo a little bit, pal, too. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but maybe just because you've been busy living your life. Like you've got responsibilities, you've got 100 different things to think about, and maybe you haven't had the time or the headspace to decode every little cryptic clue the universe has been throwing at you. Like sometimes you can't notice every single angel number when you're employed, right? Because you don't get a chance to even look at the clock. You're so busy. So it's almost like your guides are just kind of throwing their hands in the air at this point and going, how much clearer can we be? Like, we literally want you to say yes. So we're making this guidebook say nothing but yes, because yes is the only answer. And I just think that's funny, Balto. But I also think it's really sweet because it feels like they're trying to make things easier for you rather than more complicated. So I guess for some of you, you might have already noticed certain patterns, synchronicities, or repeated messages around a particular thing, but maybe you've kind of brushed them off or just not really taken them any further, even if you've noticed them. Yeah, it's almost like the universe keeps putting the same person, the same idea, or the same opportunity in front of you, hoping eventually you'll stop and realize, like, hang on, why does this keep happening? And the example that keeps popping into my head, it doesn't have to be this one for you, but let's say it's something like writing a book. As just one example. Let's say you've always had this little thought in the back of your mind of like, I'd really love to write a book one day. I'd love to be an author. And you don't necessarily do anything with that idea. It's just one of those thoughts that pops into your head every now and again. And then you open your podcast app one morning, and even though you haven't searched for anything about writing, the first thing that comes up is something like the best tips for first-time authors. And the length of the podcast is exactly the length that you could listen to on your commute to your day job. And you think, oh, that's a bit strange, but you ignore it. And then when you're on your way to work, you notice a creative writing class advertised outside your local community centre. And it just happens to fit perfectly around your working hours. And it's also heavily discounted at the moment in time that you encounter it. And again, you think like, oh, that's funny, like what a weird coincidence. But you ignore it again. And then it doesn't stop there. Maybe then your workplace suddenly tells you that a famous author is coming in to give a talk or a seminar, and somehow you're the one who has been asked to kind of like look after them for the day. So suddenly you've got the chance to have a conversation with somebody who's doing the very thing that you've been dreaming about this whole time. That's the kind of energy I'm getting. It's almost like because you've kept brushing the small signs aside, they are just going to become more and more obvious until eventually they're impossible to ignore. So if there's like one idea, one person, one hobby, one career path, whatever this thing happens to be, and they just keep popping up in your life and refusing to leave you alone, I actually think this reading is talking about that, because I don't think you've fully realised yet just how life-changing saying yes to it could actually be. And this really makes me think of this concept of the butterfly effect, you know, that idea that one tiny little decision can completely change the direction of our lives. You know, you always hear people saying like, oh, if I hadn't missed my train that morning, if I hadn't have had to get the later train, I never would have met like the love of my life. Or, you know, somebody goes out to buy cereal on a completely random Tuesday morning and then they get spotted by a modelling scout. You know, obviously I'm not saying that's literally what's going to happen to you, Balto, but I do think those stories are very interesting because they remind us, you know, how one tiny moment can completely just alter the course of somebody's life. and you just don't know what saying yes to one opportunity could potentially lead to. With that said, I do want to make something really, really clear here, because I don't want this card to be misunderstood. This isn't the universe telling you that you have to start saying yes to absolutely everything and anything and everyone. That's not what this is saying, okay? So like, if your friend asks you to go out this weekend and you are exhausted and your genuine answer is like, no thank you, I really need a quiet weekend to myself, then that's completely different. That's you listening to yourself and recognizing that rest is what you need right now. But this feels much more like one of those situations where a part of you is genuinely curious. A part of you can actually picture yourself involved with this thing, like a part of you feels excited by it, but then maybe fear creeps in, or uncertainty, or you convince yourself that, you know, now isn't the right time, or you get so caught up in everything else you've got going on that you tell yourself you'll think about it another day, but yet you always seem to kind of circle back to it, or find yourself thinking about it or contemplating it. It never really goes away. You keep sort of orbiting the same idea, even if all you've said to yourself so far is like, maybe I could do that, like maybe I would at some point. That feels like the biggest clue here, because the things that are truly meant for us have a funny way of just sticking around. They don't always disappear just because we've ignored them once. Like, if we use that example of you saying no to going out with your friend, and it's because that's genuinely what you want, like you don't want to go out, you're probably not going to spend the entire night thinking like, oh, I should have gone out, I wish I would have gone out. What would happen if I did go out? Like, you're just going to enjoy your night because you know, you feel certain it was the right decision. But this is like something you keep circling back to. This thing keeps finding a way back into your life to try and get you to pay attention. So at the very least, if there's something you've been saying maybe to, I think the portal is asking you to explore it a little bit further. So it could be going to that class, or taking the course, or accepting an invitation, applying for the job, going on that date. Whatever this thing is for you, I really feel like saying yes opens that first door. But it's the doors behind that one that you can't actually see yet that are going to change everything. It almost feels like you're stepping into a season of your life where your first instinct becomes, you know what? Yeah, go on then. Yeah, let's give it a go. And I really think that's a beautiful energy to be stepping into, pal too. So that is what I'm getting for your reading so far. We are now going to move along to your tarot. So I hope this is resonating with you so far. And let's have a look at what we pulled for you. Okay, pal two, so starting over here on the left, we have got the Page of Wands. And clarifying the Page of Wands, we have the Hanged Man, we have got the Star. Clarifying the Star, we have the Seven of Pentacles. We have got the Queen of Wands. And clarifying the Queen of Wands, we have the Knight of Pentacles. Interesting combination. And we have the Ten of Wands, and clarifying the Ten of Wands, we have Temperance. Okay. And we also have some more oracle cards for you. So we have number 25, Ground Yourself. We have Tell It Like It Is. We have Night Wanderer, Stand By Your Beliefs. And we have Stars. Pretty. So starting with the Page of Wands, clarified by the Hanged Man, I actually think the biggest message here is no more waiting, part two. No more waiting. It feels like this portal is opening up a chapter of your life where things finally start moving again. If you've been in a period of stillness or uncertainty, or you've just kind of felt like suspended in midair, not really knowing which direction to go in, I think that is coming to an end via this portal, because the Page of Wands has such an exciting energy to it. It's fiery, it's enthusiastic, and it's curious, and it just wants to like go out and experience life. So it almost feels like this portal is putting that spark back into you. Suddenly you feel alive again. There's this vitality about you where you just feel motivated to actually get up and do things. And life just starts feeling more exciting instead of feeling like you're constantly just waiting for something to happen to you, like you are making it happen. So for some of you, this could literally mean that you're moving around more as part of this. Maybe you're traveling more. Maybe you're exploring new places, saying yes to miniature adventures or big adventures, or just finding yourself out and about a lot more than you have been recently. Like, especially if you've been more sort of hermited recently, you could find yourself being a little bit more social. It feels like you guys are stepping into uncharted territory, but in a way that feels exciting rather than overwhelming. I also think there's something here about trying things you might have previously talked yourself out of. So, for example, if there were opportunities you weren't sure about before, or maybe hobbies you've had in the back of your mind, but you thought like, oh, I don't know if that's really for me. But now it's like there's going to be this shift in perspective where you're actually a lot more curious and you want to give them a go. It almost feels like you've gone from, I'm not too sure, to, you know what, why not? Like, let's just go for it. Why not? And that kind of takes me back to the energy of your initial oracle card, that yes, that great big yes, because I think this portal is changing your relationship with saying yes. Not in the sense that you're suddenly saying yes to absolutely everything, but just that you're becoming much more willing to say yes to the things that genuinely intrigue you. And for some of you, this new sort of approach to life could come about because some kind of revelation that you've been waiting on, the answer finally comes through. So this could be news that you get, a message, an answer, just some kind of confirmation. And I almost think like whatever this answer is, just knowing that you have the answer feels like a breath of fresh air. Even if it isn't the answer you expected, it's something where once you get it, you feel like you can finally move. And I'm not saying it won't be the answer you expected, especially if it's a sort of more complex situation, but I'm just saying once you have that answer, regardless of what it is, whether it's what you expect or whether it's not what you expect, it still feels like it gives you movement. Like you are happy to have the clarity and you're happy to not be stuck in limbo. And I think that is such a huge part of this portal. It feels like you're looking at life from just a completely different perspective. Plans that were on hold start moving again. Decisions that maybe once felt impossible suddenly become a lot clearer. And instead of endlessly weighing up the pros and cons, you are genuinely feeling motivated to take some kind of action. I'm getting like these little bursts of inspiration that almost come out of nowhere. They almost come out of thin air. You know those moments that come through where you suddenly just get this strong, overwhelming urge, this desire to do something, and instead of you guys like overthinking it for 3 weeks, you just go ahead and do it. Like that's what this feels like. And the example that is coming into my head, it doesn't have to be this one for you, but it's like you're scrolling through job adverts and you see one that immediately catches your eye. And normally you might spend like days thinking like, oh, you know, am I qualified enough? Is this the right time? What if I don't get the job? And by the time you finish thinking about it, that opportunity has passed. Like you've let it pass you by, but this feels different. It feels like you see the opportunity and you just think, do you know what? I'm just going to apply. I'm just going to go for it. And it's not because you are being reckless. It's nothing like that. But it's because something inside you suddenly just clicks. Like you can actually picture yourself there at that job. You can see what your life would look like. And instead of talking yourself out of it, you allow that excitement of feeling that future life, you allow that to carry you forward. I'm also getting something here about letting go of the need to control every outcome. I don't know if that calls you out in any way, pal too. I'm not saying that's going to be for everyone, but if you have been guilty of that in the past, this feels like you guys are allowing things to unfold a little bit more naturally. It's like you're going with the flow more instead of trying to force everything into place. And weirdly enough, that's when things seem to fall into place and start happening the most. This feels like a really lovely energy for getting creative project off the ground because ideas just seem to arrive. You're not sat there desperately trying to force a breakthrough. It's like you could be in the most random places. You could literally just be out for a walk one day, or you could be washing the dishes or driving somewhere, and suddenly this idea just lands out of nowhere. It feels like your creativity is flowing a lot more freely and readily. There could also be something significant about a younger person, or maybe this is just that you feel younger yourself. There's this very playful, free-spirited energy coming through, something coming into your life via this portal that makes life feel just like exciting and charged again. I mean, if we're talking about like love and relationship, dating, meeting someone new, I wouldn't be surprised if that applies for some of you, because this is kind of giving me butterflies right now. This reminds me of that feeling of having like a teenage crush. And you know when nobody wants to like admit they have a crush, so it's like going back and forth between friend groups. Like your friend talks to their friend group and someone from their friend group says, my friend likes such a body in your friend group, and then it goes back and forth like that. Kind of like a Chinese whispers sort of thing, but then one day they actually text you and the text isn't even something that's a big deal. It's like them just saying hi and you're like, hi. But when you get a text from them, you're absolutely buzzing. You're like, oh my god, they just text me, and you're telling your friends and stuff like that. I don't know why that's coming through so strongly. I'm not saying it's that situation, I'm just saying it's that sort of feeling. It feels like this really playful, flirty energy, whether that's because a new connection comes in or because this portal is kind of just helping you fall back in love with life itself, like you're getting butterflies for life itself. It feels like you're going to be loosening up in some way. It doesn't feel like you're carrying heaviness. It's like you're flirting with life again, is something I want to say. So with the star clarified by the Seven of Pentacles, I think this portal is opening up an opportunity for some kind of rejuvenation. That's the word I keep getting, rejuvenation. It feels like deep replenishment, body, mind, spirit, all of it. There is this sense of feeling restored after a period where maybe you've been like pouring so much of yourself into something, or you've just been feeling a little bit depleted or not 100% yourself. So for some of you guys, this could literally involve doing something restorative. You could be booking some kind of holistic or clinical appointment because you really want to invest in yourself. It could even be something as simple as like somebody treating you to a spa day or gifting you a massage or a facial, or you've had like a coupon, a voucher for one of those things for ages and you finally use it. I don't know why, but I'm just picturing somebody lying there with a face mask on, looking like they're just loving life, just completely blissed out. That's the image I'm getting. It just feels deeply calming, it feels nurturing, and yeah, it feels restorative. Like that's the point here, you are being restored. But for others of you, I think it's less about like one specific event and more about your energy and your hope returning more generally. I think it's like we said, your vitality starts coming back, you start feeling more vibrant, just more hopeful generally, and that naturally inspires you to keep moving forwards. But with this being clarified by the Seven of Pentacles, I love this energy because this feels like your hard work finally starts to pay off. Because it seems like you've maybe been planting seeds for a long time and perhaps you were wondering if they were ever going to grow. And it's like suddenly you notice the first little shoots coming through the soil. I don't think this means like overnight success. It feels more steady than that. It's more like that moment where you stop and realize like, actually I've come quite a long way. Or you just notice something beginning to shift, something feels different, and it restores your faith that everything you've been investing your time and energy into has been worthwhile. I think this portal is bringing your vision and your reality a lot closer together, is something I'm getting. Because it's like you've been carrying this picture around in your head of what you wanted your life to look like, and now this portal is showing you, like you're starting to see little pieces of that becoming real. They're not just these ideas anymore, they're becoming tangible. I definitely think there has been an element of trusting the process here. Maybe things have felt a bit slower than you wanted them to feel. Maybe you have been checking your progress, wondering when something was finally going to happen, or questioning whether your effort has really been worth it. But I think this portal is your reminder that it is worth it and you're beginning to see the results now. And because you're seeing those results, it naturally restores your hope. It reminds you why you started this in the first place, and it gives you that little bit of encouragement to keep going. It feels like one of those moments where you're looking back and you realize just how far you've come. And it's not because everything is just suddenly perfect, but you're getting there, like you're getting closer to where you're meant to be. Because the thing is with the star, I think this is the case anyway. Yeah, the star comes after the tower in tarot. So it's like after the disruption or after the uncertainty or after the chaos, things begin to settle again. And that's what this feels like. It feels like reaching level ground after a kind of bumpy journey. Things start to become steadier and a lot more peaceful and maybe a little bit more predictable whilst you're still in that building and you're still in that growing phase. But it's not predictable in an unexciting way. It's in a very, very exciting way, in a way that keeps you going with that Page of Wands, and you're in a much calmer place as you're doing it. It feels like this sort of reminder of like, I'm on the right path. Also, I don't know why this is coming through, but for a handful of you, I don't know whether you're going to a ceremony soon. It could be like a baptism, a christening, a wedding. I don't know whether you're attending something that brings people together and kind of marks the beginning of a new chapter. But that is coming through. That could be an extra confirmation for you guys. I know that's not going to resonate for everybody, but they wanted me to mention that. So I don't know, maybe that ceremony is important in some way. maybe you're going to get a burst of inspiration there. I don't know. I just wanted to say it. So with the Queen of Wands clarified by the Knight of Pentacles, this portal is bringing you towards an era where you guys are just like feeling yourselves. That's the best way I can explain it, right? Oh, how else can I explain it? You know those days where you're getting ready to go somewhere, and these are usually the days where actually you're not getting ready to go somewhere, you just decide to get ready and everything seems to turn out really nice, but nobody even gets to see it because you've not got plans that day. I don't know, that's what happens to me anyway. But you know those days you're getting ready and everything just seems to work out. Like you just love what you're wearing, your hair behaves itself for once when you're styling it, and your makeup goes exactly how you want it to, and you catch yourself in the mirror and you think like, oh, actually I look really good today. That's the sort of energy this gives me. Obviously it's not about appearance, it's this internal confidence, and it's this confidence that comes from knowing like, I know who I am, and because you know who you are, it becomes much easier for you guys to put forward your ideas and to express yourself, to show your creativity, to speak up, to occupy space without questioning yourself so much. And like you're just enjoying being seen more. The other thing that I was thinking to compare it to is like, this feels like ovulation week, but all the time. It feels like a good hair day or ovulation week, but every day. Only if you're somebody who actually has a good ovulation week, if you have one, because I know not everyone does. But that's the best comparison I can think of. It's this feeling where like you suddenly got tons more energy, or you know, all the things you've been putting off just don't seem quite so daunting anymore, and you just suddenly want to get out of the house, you want to be around people, you feel a little bit more social, a bit flirtier. Not necessarily with a specific person, unless you want that, but almost like you're flirting with life again. Like we said earlier, life just becomes more playful. I definitely think this portal is opening up a bit of main character energy for you guys, but in a way that is very authentic. This isn't a performance you're putting on. It's not like faking it till you make it. It's just feeling more of that full body, full soul confidence. Like you're just allowing yourself to take up space, and it feels really, really good. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you guys were Leos or you have strong fire sign energy, because there is this element of like, okay, it's my turn now, like it's my time to shine. And it sort of reminds me of somebody having their solar return, like their birthday comes around and they suddenly feel just this renewed confidence and excitement for the year ahead. And that's just the kind of energy I'm getting. I'm also hearing that song, oh, what is it called? Where it's like, I don't know who it's by or anything like that, but it's oh, what a beautiful morning, oh, what a beautiful day, something, something, everything's going my way. Yeah, it's basically about everything going your way, isn't it? That's exactly how you're going to feel about it. It kind of feels like every day you're waking up in a 90s rom-com and you are the main character and you're the popular girl and you have this amazing wardrobe and you're pretty, you're charismatic, you're funny, you're smart, like everything is just going well. I don't know how else to explain it. Like you are that girl or guy or non-binary person. But yeah, there's definitely passion here. But with the Knight of Pentacles, it's not sort of chaotic, uncontrolled passion. The Queen of Wands, she's naturally very feisty. You know, she is very passionate. She is a leader. But at the same time, she's not somebody who is like trying to prove herself. She isn't walking into every room demanding respect or trying to convince people that she's worthy, because everyone knows that, because she knows who she is. Like nobody's going to question the Queen of Wands. She shows up exactly as herself, and if somebody doesn't like what she's bringing to the table, that's okay. It doesn't knock her confidence, because she was never relying on anybody else's approval to feel secure. And I think this is one of the biggest gifts this portal is bringing to you. It's like you are entering this era when nobody, not one singular person, Faltu, can dull your shine. They can try, but they're not going to do it though. But you know, this could be amazing for you, especially if you have had like a little bit of a wobble with your confidence recently, or you've had moments of doubt. This feels like you're getting rid of that and you're looking in the mirror and you're like, no, I knew I still had it. Like, I knew I still had it, or I knew I was still a baddie. I know I am a baddie, like, no matter what. Nobody's going to take that away from me. But it's not just like feeling yourself and being arrogant and any of that. It's not in that way. There's like this lovely warmth around you, radiating from you, and I genuinely think people are going to be noticing it a lot more. You're going to be walking into rooms and people will naturally be gravitating towards you because your energy just feels so bright and magnetic. So if you have been thinking about like putting a creative project out there or sharing your work, promoting your small business, or just doing anything, something where you're a little bit more visible, socializing even on a more simple, basic scale, I actually think this is a brilliant time for that. But I do really like that this Knight of Pentacles is keeping you grounded. And we've got the ground yourself card here. So that is important. That is an important part of this reading because you are not just saying yes to everything because you're excited. You are still going to be being intentional about where all of that energy goes. This almost feels like that Page of Wands. It gets everything moving, but then the Knight of Pentacles swoops in and says, okay, but let's refine this. Which of these things is actually worth investing in long term? And so there's balance to the excitement, because this portal for you, it's never, ever, ever asking you to dim your light, quite the opposite. But it is asking you to become a little bit more selective about who gets access to that light. Because, you know, not everybody deserves the same amount of your time or your energy or your warmth. And I think this is you becoming much better at recognizing that. There's also something really, really lovely here about trusting the work that you've already done. It doesn't feel like you're trying to prove yourself to anyone. This feels more like you're allowing your dedication and your consistency and your work ethic speak for itself, especially with that Seven of Pentacles. It's like you're recognizing that, you know, you have put the hours in, you've learned the lessons, you've earned your place. You don't need to convince everybody else, you just need to keep showing up. Yeah, I just love the overall balance between the Queen of Wands and the Knight of Pentacles, because it feels like you guys are finding a way to mix consistency with creativity. You're still honouring the routines that keep you grounded, but you're also finding little ways to make life feel more exciting at the same time. That could be, you know, you guys experimenting with your wardrobe, trying a different hairstyle, sharing a creative idea that you've been sitting on, or, you know, choosing to put your work out there somewhere. It feels like you are trusting the foundations you've already built whilst giving yourself permission to add your own little personality and spice and flavour to things. I'm also getting this really lovely image of somebody romanticising their everyday life. That's coming through really strongly. And the example I'm thinking of, I don't know why this is popping into my head, but like, let's say there's a chore that you absolutely hate doing. Instead of just dreading that chore every single week, maybe you put on a really good audiobook whilst you're doing that chore, or you reward yourself with an audiobook afterwards. For some reason, I'm getting a spicy book, so maybe you guys read smut. You know, that doesn't have to apply, but maybe you guys read romantasy or something. I don't know, it's like you're finding little ways to make ordinary life feel a little bit more spicy and fun. Also, with this kind of dichotomy between the Queen of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles, if this is not two sides of you and this has something to do with somebody you're meeting, like another person, an opportunity you are saying yes to in terms of like dating or something like that, or friendship, I do wonder whether some of you could find yourself drawn towards somebody who is sort of a bit of an opposite to you. Maybe not complete opposite, but maybe somebody who isn't your usual type. Like maybe if you are sometimes a little bit chaotic and you've gone for more of the unhinged. So I'm trying to find a nicer way to word that. Unhinged. Let's go with that. If you've gone for like unhinged people in the past who are exciting but not the most stable, this could be you being drawn to somebody who feels more steadier and grounded, more loyal. And at first you might kind of think, oh, but they're not really my usual type. But actually you realise that that's what makes you like them, because you don't want your usual type because it hasn't worked thus far. It doesn't have to be romantic. It could be a friendship, a business partnership, or just somebody you work really well with. But whatever it is, it feels like this portal is showing you that excitement and stability don't have to exist in these separate ways. Sometimes they can team up together and kind of balance each other out. And yeah, with the Ten of Wands and Temperance, more than anything, I really feel like this portal is bringing balance back into your life. I keep getting that word, balance, especially if you guys have been living in this Ten of Wands energy to some degree. You know, when we talk about the Ten of Wands, it can be about that feeling of carrying too much, right? Feeling overburdened, overwhelmed, burnt out, unsupported. Like you've just got far too much on your plate. You've bitten off more than you can chew, and you're trying to keep everything afloat and everyone happy by yourself. And it gets to the point where you start wondering how much longer you can actually keep going like this. So I almost think this portal is opening the door to some really, really well-deserved relief. And that ties in beautifully with what we were talking about with that rejuvenation energy, because it feels like life is finally giving you the chance to just like catch your breath for the first time in a long time. For some of you, that could literally mean getting tangible help. It could mean being able to delegate some of your responsibilities, or finally having enough stability around you that you can start prioritizing the things that you've had to put on hold because you've just been trying to like get through each day. And you know, this help could show up in lots of different ways. It could be practical help, financial help, somebody offering to take something off your plate so you're not carrying the whole burden of it alone, the physical or mental load by yourself. The example that keeps coming into my head is, and it doesn't have to be this one for you, but I'm thinking of somebody working somewhere that's been desperately understaffed for months on end, and you've been asking for help. Everybody knows you're drowning in work, but nothing changes, and you just feel like you are getting slammed day after day with too many responsibilities. And then finally, somebody actually listens to you and they hire more staff, and suddenly you're able to delegate a few things and the workload starts to feel much more manageable. And you know, you realize just how much pressure you've been under all of this time, but it's changing. For some of you, this could also be around family life. Like, for example, if you're a parent, especially a new parent, and childcare or looking after everybody else has meant that you've barely had time to look after yourself, this could be somebody stepping in and saying like, you know, go and have a few hours to yourself, I'll take over. Whether that's your co-parent or a friend or another family member, it just feels like somebody genuinely wants to lighten the load for you so you can actually start to feel like yourself again. For others of you, it could even be financial. Maybe some money you've been waiting on finally comes through, or something shifts that eases a bit of that pressure that you've been carrying around. Temperance definitely makes me think of moderation. If any of you guys have got kind of like all or nothing tendencies, where you're either doing absolutely everything or nothing at all, I think this portal is helping you find that middle ground. You guys are creating routines that genuinely support you instead of just wearing you out. You're finding a pace that feels sustainable. It just doesn't feel as frantic anymore. It's almost like you're finding a rhythm that just works with your body, and you're still moving forward, you're still growing, but you're no longer carrying everything on your own. And I think that's why this next chapter feels so much calmer. There's just a steadiness here that I really like. It feels like life is becoming more peaceful and more balanced. I know I keep saying that word, but it's just less heavy. You are still doing the work, but it's not going to feel like you are constantly just trying to get by and survive. It feels like you are getting the space to breathe and to enjoy what you've been building, but to actually be present for it at the same time. And I do think that's one of the most beautiful gifts this portal is bringing you. Now, to talk about your oracle cards briefly, I think they tie in beautifully with everything we've already spoken about here, especially with Get Grounded. You know, I think this is less about slowing down and more about becoming present, because again, I don't think this portal is asking you to become less passionate or less excited. If anything, it's the opposite. But it's asking you to take that Queen of Wands fire and pair it with this patience and steadiness of the Knight of Pentacles. It's almost like you guys are learning how to enjoy the journey instead of like constantly rushing to the next thing. I could definitely see some of you guys starting a grounding practice around this time. Maybe you're trying yoga or Pilates, maybe you're meditating more, maybe you're doing your affirmations, or just like spending more time in nature, or finding these little ways to reconnect with your body. Whatever it is you're doing, it feels like it's helping you organize your thoughts and, you know, clear some of that mental clutter and approach life from this calmer place. And I almost wonder if this portal gives you something that is going to become a part of your daily routine, but it's not something where you feel like, oh, I have to do this, but you do it because you notice how much better you feel after you've done it. And it becomes one of those little rituals that helps you deal with everything else that life is trying to throw at you. And then with Tell It Like It Is, this feels so Queen of Wands to me. This feels like becoming much more confident in your own voice. You know, what we spoke about, speaking up, putting your ideas forward, saying the thing that you've been wanting to say instead of just like forcing it and swallowing it down because you're worried about how somebody else might react to it. I could definitely see some of you guys during this portal saying things that would have terrified you 6 months ago, but it doesn't feel like you're forcing it out. It feels like this energy comes more naturally because you are standing in your more authentic, genuine energy. I feel like you're getting very honest about your boundaries. Like if somebody upsets you or crosses a line, you're going to be much more likely to address it instead of pretending that everything's fine. Equally, you're not afraid to say no to the things that aren't right for you anymore, because you've learned that saying no to one thing often creates space to say yes to something that actually matters to you. So it's honesty. I do want to say though, I don't think this is about being harsh. I think sometimes people hear phrases like tell it like it is and assume that that means brutal honesty, but I don't actually believe honesty has to be brutal. I think honesty can be incredibly kind. I think we need less brutality in the world, not more. You can be truthful, you can disagree with somebody, you can express how you feel, and you can still do it with warmth and respect. I think this is something you're realizing as you step through this portal. I also don't want to ignore this microphone moment here. So for some of you, this could be something that uses your voice, a podcast, a public platform, speaking, singing, teaching, educating, just sharing your opinions more openly. You're getting more comfortable with allowing yourself to be heard. Now with this Night Wanderer card, I'm wondering if this portal opens up a completely different level of creativity for you during the evening or at night specifically. Maybe you're naturally a night owl already, maybe you work nights, or maybe this is completely new for you, but I keep getting these random bursts of inspiration that seem to arrive when the rest of the world has gone quiet. And I want to say, if I can give you one piece of advice, if that's you, if you notice that, please write your ideas down. Please write them down, because these feel like the sorts of ideas that disappear by morning. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you wake up in the middle of the night with what feels like the most profound idea you've ever had, and you're absolutely convinced you'll remember it, and then you wake up the next morning and it's just completely gone, it's lost to the void. Or you're lying in bed and you just suddenly think of the perfect comeback to an argument that you had 10 years ago. It's that kind of energy. You're like, oh, that would have been so good if I'd have said that. Ideas just seem to arrive when your mind is somewhere between waking and sleeping. So I really think it's worth keeping a notebook by your bed, or making a quick voice note on your phone if something comes through, because I actually think there are some really, really brilliant ideas hidden in those moments. Dreams could be extra significant to you at this time as well, pal too. Predictive dreams maybe. It almost feels like you're wandering through different levels of consciousness, and you're bringing little pieces of inspiration back with you from those different planes of existence. I could also see some of you doing more in the evenings generally. Maybe you're saying yes to evening classes, a pottery class, an art class, a writing class, or you're going to an open mic night with this microphone. You're going to a comedy club, slam poetry, you're doing karaoke, something where you're experiencing life a little bit differently. Or it could just be even more simple than that. Maybe you're just saying yes to meeting friends for dinner and you're wandering around somewhere you've never explored before, or visiting places at night that you've only ever really seen during the day. And to me, this actually links really nicely to your final card, this stars card, because I keep getting this feeling of looking at something familiar and suddenly seeing it in a completely different way. Oh, I've just had another idea. Could this be someone you've known for a long time and you've never thought of them in a romantic way, and then suddenly you have a crush on them? Or they have a crush on you? I don't know if that's coming through, pal too. So that could be the case for some of you. But the example I was actually thinking of before that popped into my head was your own city, your own place that you live, as an example. Let's say you're somebody who is a bit more introverted, or you get overwhelmed by busy spaces quite easily. Maybe your only experience of your city currently is walking through the city during the 5 o'clock rush. Where it's very noisy and it's crowded and everyone's trying to get home at the same time, and you think, oh my god, I hate walking through the city at this time, or I hate this city, or something like that. So whenever somebody suggests going into the city, your immediate reaction is no, it's bad enough when I have to be in the city during rush hour or whatever. But somebody could say to you no, trust me, I know this little place, let's go on a Wednesday evening. And suddenly you're seeing somewhere you've known what feels like your whole life in a completely different light. You go to this place on this Wednesday evening and it's quiet, it's peaceful, it almost has this magical aura to it. And I think that's a really lovely metaphor for this whole reading, to be honest, because this portal isn't just changing what you're saying yes to, it's changing the way you guys experience the world around you. Because it's you're starting to slow down enough to notice the little moments. You're finding more beauty in ordinary and mundane things, and you're adding a lot more whimsy back into your everyday life, guys. You know, maybe you're going to be doing some stargazing, like maybe you're wandering around somewhere new after dark. Maybe you're finding little rituals that make your routine feel a lot more magical and whimsical. Whatever this looks like for you, it just feels like you're falling back in love with life again. And I really feel like that's a beautiful place to end your reading, pal 2. So that's what I'm getting for you today, and that's where I'm going to leave you today, my loves. Thank you so much for listening and for spending this time with me. If anything resonated for you in this reading, even just a tiny little thing, please let me know what it is below. Please comment. If you get a chance, please like, hype, share, subscribe. Those are the very best ways to support a tiny channel like mine. And on a personal note, I just really appreciate it, and I genuinely love hearing from you guys. If you don't feel comfortable letting me know what resonated, please just let me know which pile you picked. If you can't do any of that, I just want to still thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the reading. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one, pal 2. Hi, pal 3 Collective. If you chose the Birthing a New Age, Birthing New Creations, Dreaming a New World into Being card, and you chose this Bunch of Lemons sticker, and you chose the Rainbow Tarot, then you're in the correct place. Welcome to your reading, friends. If you'd like to know a little bit more about what to expect from today's reading, I would recommend checking out my intro. I do go through absolutely everything there. I will also leave some details in the pinned comment below for your reference. I'd recommend checking at least one of those out just so you know what to expect from the reading today. But if you just want to jump straight in, today's reading is the Lion's Gate portal, the door that's about to open for you. So let's have a look at the first card you chose, which is this beautiful Birthing a New Age card. Firstly, can we just appreciate how perfect this card is for today's reading? Because obviously today's reading is about the door that is about to open for you, the portal you're about to step through, but this card is almost saying something a little bit different to me. It doesn't feel so much like the portal is opening somewhere outside of you, pal 3. It feels like the portal is opening inside of you. That's the first message I'm getting. But before I say anything else, I just want to read a little bit from the guidebook to kind of ground this energy check for you guys. So let's have a look. Okay, birthing a new age, birthing new creations, dreaming a new world into being. Often our path is exactly the one that we don't feel prepared to walk. Walk it anyway. Often what is rising feels far bigger than we could possibly hold. Be a container for it anyway. Often our creations seem to have a wild, uncontrollable consciousness of their own. Birth them anyway. Often what is ours to do is the very thing that most intimidates us. Be courageous and do it anyway. We are birthing a new age. Right now, we're in a transition period between ages, in the process of allowing the old cycle to fall away and the new to rise. Like driving in the fog and trusting the road will appear ahead, we need to release old identities and ways that no longer serve us, using our intuition as a compass. You are part of a group of souls who have been incarnating at significant periods of history, preparing for this exact time. Dreaming a new world into being. Magdalene's sisters, daughters of Isis, priestesses, witches, mystics, healers, seers, artists, midwives, visionaries, guardians of the earth, and storytellers from times past. It is time to give permission and space for what is beckoning within to be born. We are dreaming a new world into being. Work your light activation. Hold the card on your heart and say, I am open to surrendering to the creations that are wanting to be birthed through me. May I be of service in a way that delights my mind, body, and soul. Please use me, please lead me, please show me the way. Oh, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of got goosebumps reading that, pal 3, because it sums up almost exactly what I was already feeling from the imagery before I'd even opened the guidebook. The overall message I'm getting for you, pal 3, is that the portal opening for you is not somewhere you're walking towards. It isn't a doorway that's appearing in front of you guys. It's almost like you are the portal. Like you're the vessel through which something wants to come into existence. Because, you know, when we think about birth as a metaphor, something has to grow quietly for a long time before the world ever gets to see it. It's alive long before anybody else knows it's there. You know, it has its own heartbeat, it has its own timing. It develops beneath the surface until eventually it reaches a point where it cannot stay hidden anymore. And that's what this feels like. It feels like there's been this vision, this idea, this calling, or, you know, some part of your purpose that's been growing inside of you for a really long time. And maybe you've always sensed it was there, pal 3, but it hasn't quite been ready to take shape yet. It's almost like something has been laying dormant and it's beginning to wake up. Something that's been coiled inside you is starting to unfurl. Now, obviously I'm talking metaphorically here, although for some of you, you know, if your journey with pregnancy or fertility is relevant to your life and something you've been hoping for, then of course I don't want to completely dismiss that, because this is a very fertile card. But I think for most of you, this could refer more to creative fertility. But whatever this is, it needs you. It can't exist in quite the same way without your perspective and your experiences, without your personal unique brand of creativity or your particular way of expressing it, whether that's, you know, a piece of art or a book, or it's a healing practice, or it's a tarot YouTube channel, or, you know, it's music or writing or a business or just something completely different. It almost feels like this creation already exists somewhere. It's just waiting for you to become the person who brings it into the tangible world. It's like this gift is lying dormant in you and it's waiting for this idea, almost like how the sperm and egg meet. It's like this perfect fusion. It has to meld, it has to come together in just the exact way at just the exact time. That's what I'm getting. The other thing that really stood out to me in the guidebook was the reference to Magdalene sisters, daughters of Isis, witches, mystics. When it said all of that, like, if you've always resonated with any of those words that we used, even if you'd use a different label for yourself, it doesn't have to be one of those words, but just if you resonate with one of those things as a concept, I actually think that even that could be a really beautiful confirmation that you have found your pile. I would not be surprised if some of you guys, as extra confirmations, had strong 8th house or 12th house placements, maybe prominent Neptune energy, maybe a significant Lilith placement, or a lot of water energy in your chart, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. That absolutely does not have to apply for this to be your pile. 4th house, I forgot to mention 4th house. But yeah, that doesn't have to apply, but there is just such strong, sacred, feminine, intuitive, almost otherworldly energy around this card, and I just wanted to mention those things. But yeah, all of those archetypes the guidebook mentions, they all have one thing in common, that they're channels, right? You know, they take something invisible and they make it visible, whether that's via healing or storytelling or artwork or music or spiritual guidance, or, you know, helping people see the world differently or experience the world differently. Essentially, they're taking something that begins beyond the physical and they are giving it a form in this life. And that's what this card feels like to me. I also keep thinking about the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, I think it is. She talks about this idea that ideas almost have like a consciousness of their own. And there's something in the book about the ideas traveling around looking for somebody willing to bring them into existence. And, you know, if one person ignores them for long enough, they will eventually move on and find somebody else. Now, whether you believe that literally or not doesn't necessarily matter, but I kind of love it as a metaphor because, you know, that's exactly what this card feels like. It's almost like there's been something gently knocking on the door of your consciousness, and this Lionsgate portal is the moment where you answer that door. I also keep hearing this phrase, I have to say it, I'm getting, it's this really strange, like, deja vu feeling. A lot of you could be experiencing deja vu recently, but I'm getting that some of you need to do this because you remember a world that doesn't exist yet. I know that sounds weird, but it's like you've always carried this sense that life could be different, the world could be better or kinder or more magical or more connected. And maybe you guys have spent years deep down feeling like you came here for a reason, or that you know in your heart of hearts you're meant to contribute something meaningful, but maybe you haven't quite been able to put your finger on exactly what that thing is. And I'm wondering whether that's what this portal is opening up for you. It's something about like chemistry, like when two materials interact. I'm getting something about that. I don't know whether any of you are in like scientific fields. I'm getting something about a chemical reaction. I don't know. I'm seeing like a lab now with like something overflowing. When two different materials meet, something overflows. I don't know what that means. But yeah, this doesn't feel like somebody else is handing you your purpose or anything like that. It feels more like you are remembering something that has always been there, and you are giving yourself permission to bring into the world the thing that has been waiting patiently inside of you all along. Because these energies are fusing to make something happen, and you remember what doesn't yet exist. So I hope this makes sense to somebody so far. This was just the energy check. If this resonates with you, we are about to move on to your tarot. So yeah, let's elaborate on this story. I'm very curious. Let's see what else we pull for you, pal 3. Okay, so starting over here on the left, we have got the 10 of Cups. Okay, amazing start, pal 3. The 10 of Cups, and clarifying the 10 of Cups, we have the Page of Swords in reverse. We have got the 6 of Wands. Ah, cool. And clarifying the 6 of Wands, we have the Empress. We have got the 3 of Pentacles. And clarifying the 3 of Pentacles, we have the 2 of Wands. And we have the 5 of Swords in reverse. Clarifying the 5 of Swords in reverse, we have the Ace of Swords. And let's have a look at a few more of your Oracle cards. So we have, oh, don't you just love when the synchronicities are synchronicity in? Number 15, connect with your womb. Amazing. We have Sacrifices. We have got Serpent, awakening to knowledge. Beautiful. Interesting, that's coming up next to the Ace of Swords. And we have Summer. Okay, so something pertinent to the season of summer. We are in summer right now, so it makes sense if you're watching at the time of me uploading this. Okay, right, starting with the 10 of Cups, clarified by the Page of Swords reversed. What a gorgeous combination that is, pal 3. I think the 10 of Cups is genuinely one of the best cards you could ask for in a reading like this, because, you know, it's all about happiness and fulfillment and belonging and emotional security. You know, it's that feeling of looking around at your life and thinking, this is it, like, this feels like my home, this is everything I've ever dreamed of, everything I could wish for. And, you know, I do think it links back to what we've explored so far, particularly in the energy check, because the whole pile has been about creation and about birthing something into the world. And obviously, you know, the most literal example of that is the 10 of Cups, because the 10 of Cups is family. And obviously, I know, you know, life isn't always that straightforward. And obviously, I'm simplifying something more complex here, but, you know, families tend to be created when people fall in love and they build lives together, and if they choose to, they create new life from that love. It is the ultimate act of creation, right? Like taking something that didn't exist before and bringing it into the world within a safe, loving environment. I know that's not always the case, like that's not always something that happens in the real world, but I'm just saying, you know, I think that's everybody's hope for starting a family. If that's something they want, they hope to be able to bring their creation into a world of love and into a place of safety. But that's just one way that this can manifest. And it's the most literal way. But for some of you, you know, yeah, this could absolutely be about meeting a long-term partner, you know, starting a family, becoming pregnant if that's something you want, raising children, or, you know, making the decision to start trying if that is something you want. It doesn't have to be for all my child-free people. That is absolutely fine. We're going to give different examples, so don't worry. I just wanted to give the obvious and literal one. It's okay if we all want different things, right? But yeah, I actually do think for a lot of you it's going to be much broader than that. But this feels like finding something that gives you that same sense of belonging. It could be finding the career that finally feels right. It feels like the right fit after a long time of searching. It could be creating something you're incredibly proud of and watching it grow. It could be finding a community where you just feel genuinely understood. It could be meeting a person who feels like home. But whatever this is, it definitely carries this feeling of like, this is where I'm meant to be. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is who I'm meant to be with. There's something really peaceful about it. It's like this portal is opening up an opportunity for you to stop surviving and start actually settling into a life that feels very meaningful for you. I keep getting this feeling of like, oh, finally, like this is what I've been waiting for all this time. This is what this portal is opening up for you guys. Something you've hoped for, something you've imagined, something you've been trying to manifest for a really long time, and you've been wondering when it will come. It is beginning to take shape here. And I think what's interesting about this with the Page of Swords reversed, I think this is actually showing you what you're moving away from. And, you know, this could apply in lots of different ways depending on what your personal example is, like how it shows up in your tangible reality. But for some of you, it could be another person. For others, it could be something within yourself, or it could simply be describing an environment you've been in. But the Page of Swords reverse, it often makes me think of just a really busy and hectic mind. It makes me think of overthinking, brain fog, like catastrophizing or jumping to conclusions before you've actually got all the information. Sometimes it can also be about like gossip and people being really nosy, or, you know, maybe sometimes like passive aggressive communication or conversations that just feel like unnecessarily sharp or harsh or like a bit bitter or something, like there's an undertone to it. It can also be sometimes like a person making promises but never following through on those promises, or, you know, if this is about you and not another person, it could be you having made a promise to yourself, but you can't seem to act on that promise. The Page of Swords reverse, it actually sometimes, it reminds me a little bit of struggling with ADHD. Not because everyone watching has ADHD, but if you do, that could be an extra confirmation for you and you may be able to relate. But yeah, some of the traits kind of overlap with that, not all of them, of course, but it is that feeling of kind of having like that experience of all these ideas racing around your head and you're just struggling to organize them. And sometimes you're getting caught in like analysis paralysis, or you're feeling like your thoughts are sort of working against you instead of with you. So I'm wondering if this portal is helping you leave some of that behind, because when I look at these two cards together, it's showing me that you're going to be moving away from all of that mental noise and towards something much clearer. For some of you guys, another example is like if there has been bickering within your family dynamic. And when I say family, it doesn't have to be literal. It could be like actual family, work family, your romantic partner, your friendship circle. It could be people finally seeing eye to eye with that Ten of Cups. So, for example, you know, if this is a workplace where everybody's just in everybody else's business and there's gossiping and creating unnecessary drama and tension, this could be you moving into an environment that just feels so much more supportive. Or, you know, maybe the person at your workplace who is guilty of stirring the pot and causing this drama leaves and suddenly everything just feels so much lighter and better. If somebody in your life has been all talk and no action, this could be them actually following through on what they've promised, what they said they'd do, they're actually doing it. Suddenly you feel like you can rely on this person again because their actions are matching with their words. Or maybe this is something that is happening deep within you. Maybe some of you guys have spent so long searching for answers or looking things up or worrying that something you've always wanted is not going to happen, that you've almost talked yourself out of believing that it ever could. And then this portal opens within you, and instead of endlessly wondering whether this thing is possible, you just start living it. And that's what I love so much about this combination, is it's like you just start embodying it. The overthinking starts to just quieten down because you're no longer in a place of having to imagine what your happiness might look like, because you are actually experiencing it. And with the Six of Wands clarified by the Empress, I love this combination too, because it really feels like this portal is opening up some kind of public recognition for you guys. This feels like this is you finally receiving your flowers, you know? So this could be people noticing your hard work, appreciating what you've created, and just acknowledging everything that's gone into getting you to this point. And I think the amazing thing about it is it doesn't feel like just a lucky break. This feels like something you've actually worked for and you've earned. It seems like you have worked really hard for something, and now you're reaching a point where other people are recognizing that too. Because I'm getting this lovely image right now of a group of people gathering around you to celebrate with you, and they're just genuinely pleased for you. They're saying like, oh, I'm just so happy this has happened for Pal 3. I know they've been waiting for this. Because I think a lot of these people kind of see the journey that you've been on. If you do have any sort of online presence or you run your own business, then yeah, for some of you, this absolutely could be, you know, your audience growing or your work reaching more people. you gaining more visibility, because sometimes I think of like the Six of Wands of kind of celebrity and fan energy, but I am getting this impression of people being personally really, really happy for you, which if you do have an online platform and you have fans, I'm not saying that they couldn't personally think of you and be happy for you, because, you know, relationships, even if they're kind of parasocial, do exist. And if there's a creator you like and you see them, you know, blowing up or something like that, you might feel really happy for them, and that's normal. You're like, oh, they deserve it because they've worked hard. But for a lot of you, I actually think this is something more personal and close to your heart, and maybe closer to home, because it feels like the people who know you best, like your inner circle, are really, really proud of you, because they know exactly how much work and sheer determination and resilience it's taken to get here, essentially. But I feel like with this Empress, you know, with the Empress, nothing is forced. This isn't a case of you putting yourself out there and trying to convince people to notice you. It's not a case of you sort of chasing validation, but you are allowing yourself to enjoy the moment instead of brushing it off or hiding from it. Like, you're allowing yourself to enjoy this time and to be proud of what you've created. And I do actually think that's something a lot of us struggle with at times. Sometimes even when we achieve something, it's much easier to just sort of say, okay, what now? And like move on to the next thing, than it is to stop and acknowledge what we've already achieved. But yeah, it just feels like this portal is opening up a really abundant period in your life, and you're actually allowing yourself to like fully enjoy it. For some of you, this could absolutely be financial. Maybe, you know, your hard work starts paying off in a very tangible way. Maybe your business starts popping off, or just something you've been building. It finally gives you freedom to expand. Yeah, I keep getting that example of somebody whose business suddenly picks up, like they get a surge in sales, and, you know, now they're in a position where they can invest back into the thing that they love creating. They're not just struggling to keep their head above water anymore. They've actually got room to dream a little bit bigger than before. We also can't ignore how nurturing the Empress is as an archetype. There's so much care here. So it's like whatever it is you are bringing into the world, you genuinely care about it. You want to look after it like it's your child. You want to see it thrive. It isn't about, you know, you getting recognition for the sake of recognition. The recognition feels more like a byproduct of how much love you've already poured into this. I'm also wondering whether this portal helps you guys reconnect with your own natural rhythms a little bit more. There could be more time spent in nature, more awareness of your body's own cycles, or maybe just a deeper appreciation for the fact that not everything is supposed to just boom happen overnight. Like, some things need time to grow, and you're kind of going with the flow of that. And just to go with like the metaphor of pregnancy and birthing something, this feels like the stage where your creation has grown enough that other people can finally see it too. Like when a pregnant person first gets their little baby bump, you are no longer, you know, carrying this by yourself. It's beginning to take on a life of its own. And I think that's a gorgeous place to find yourself, pile 3. And for some reason, I'm thinking of the example of like, if you're visibly pregnant and you get on a bus, I was going to say people will ask if you want a seat, but some people these days are not very polite or compassionate, so maybe they would, but people should get up, right? Ask if you want a seat. If they are able-bodied and not pregnant, they should be asking you that. And if your bump is visible, they are more likely to do that. Whereas like if you are early on in your pregnancy, you might be dealing with all these horrible symptoms, like you could feel really sick all the time or exhausted, like you just need to sit down. But you might have to actually ask for help because nobody can see that you're pregnant unless you say, hey, I could do with a seat, I'm pregnant, I'm sick. Do you know what I mean? So like, but here, like, people are just getting up for you and just helping you without you having to ask. There's something about that coming through. With the 3 of Pentacles and the 2 of Wands, this kind of expands on that people helping idea. I feel like this portal is opening up opportunities for you to connect with the right people at the right time. I get this feeling of your village expanding, you know, whether that is teammates, collaborators, co-workers, friends, family, your partner, or just people whose skills complement your own skills. This seems like you're no longer going to have to figure everything out by yourself. There are people coming into your life who genuinely want to help, and whatever role they play within your life, it helps move you towards where you're trying to go. This could be somebody offering you advice. It could be somebody building or creating something that helped you. It could simply be somebody sharing a skill that you don't have. But whatever form this takes, it's like it's a really successful pooling of resources. It's something where everybody brings something different to the table. And because of that, the whole thing becomes much stronger than it would have been if you tried to do it all on your own. With the Two of Wands, this card is a lot about looking ahead and planning and thinking about where you're going to go next. It feels like this portal isn't just opening one opportunity for you guys, it's giving you a much clearer roadmap in general for the next stage of your journey. And you might find that you have to tweak your daily routine a little bit, or you have to organize things differently, or you have to change something. But I actually think you're going to enjoy doing that because it seems like you're working towards something that genuinely excites you. There is definitely a sort of crossroads energy here between something familiar and something new. There's one path where something feels comfortable because you already know it, and the other path feels exciting because you don't. But I don't get the sense that you're stuck here. I think you're getting ready to move. The example that keeps popping into my head is somebody who wants to expand their business. They've got a brilliant idea and they know where they want to take it, but there's just this one part of the process that they simply don't know how to do, so they don't know how to get from A to B. And then the right person comes along at exactly the right time with that specific skill. So it's like maybe you hire that person because you finally have the money to do that, or maybe somebody recommends them to you, but suddenly this thing that felt like a huge obstacle isn't so much an obstacle anymore. Well, it's not going to be because somebody has the exact skills that you were missing, and they make it easy for you to overcome whatever this thing is. Or, taking a completely different example, let's say you find out you're pregnant and you're so excited, but then you kind of start thinking, we've got to sort the baby's room out. I don't even know where to begin. I haven't got the energy to do that. Have we got enough money to do that? What if it's not done before the baby comes? Then somebody close to you offers to help. Maybe your partner decorates it for you. Maybe one of your family members puts the furniture together for you. Or somebody has loads of ideas that you hadn't even thought of. And then suddenly something that felt sort of really overwhelming becomes something you get to create together. And because everybody is bringing their own strengths to it, it turns out better than you could have ever imagined. That's really the feeling I'm getting from these cards working together. This portal is putting the right people in your path so that you can start building towards the future that you've been dreaming about. You're still the person deciding where you're going, but you don't have to know how to do every single part of the journey by yourself. That's the message that I'm getting, because people are stepping up for you, or the right opportunities are presenting themselves to you. And then with the Five of Swords reversed with the Ace of Swords, this portal is definitely opening up some kind of truth, some kind of clarity. This could be something somebody tells you. It could be something that's finally exposed. It could be a truth that you already know deep down in your body, but it's something where the fog is clearing and something is clicking into place, and all of a sudden you're going to know how to move forward. And whatever this truth is, I think it's going to be incredibly healing for you guys, because it's going to allow you guys to stop questioning yourselves. It's like your mind is going to be made up about something, or you're going to know where you stand. I also think there could be some conflict resolution surrounding this combination, especially with that Five of Swords reversed. That can talk about sort of reaching a point where you realise a fight just isn't worth bothering with anymore. And sometimes that's because somebody apologises, you find common ground. Sometimes it's because somebody decides to be honest about the part that they played in a situation. Sometimes it's just because, you decide that protecting your own peace is more important than proving a point or having the last word. But this feels like people stop dancing around an issue. So if someone in your life has been like passive aggressive or making snarky comments, gossiping, or just like refusing to say what they actually mean, right? This feels like a proper, genuine, honest conversation is actually taking place. So things that have been left unsaid are coming out into the open, and everyone is going to know where they stand. And because of that, it feels much easier to leave this situation behind. So for some of you, this could be a reconciliation. If this is someone or something you want out of your life, I'm not saying that everyone involved in this has to be best friends again, but sometimes reconciliation is just reaching that place where there are no hard feelings, no bitterness. Sometimes it's just about making peace with a particular chapter of your life, or, you know, making peace with a part of yourself that you've been fighting for a really long time, making peace with a situation. It could also indicate walking away from something that's been draining your energy. It's like you're almost looking at the situation and thinking, do you know what? This just isn't worth it anymore. Like, this isn't worth my time. And it's not because you've given up, but it's more so because you are understanding that your peace is a lot more valuable than winning an argument that was never going to bring you happiness anyway. And an example that's popping into my head right now is somebody leaving a very toxic workplace. Maybe at that workplace there was one person who constantly did all this sneaky shit, like gossiped and spread rumours and twisted things, or turned everybody against you. And even after you'd left, maybe you were carrying that situation around because it was unjust, or maybe you were wondering if you'd done something wrong, like you were dwelling on that situation. And then one day it's like the truth comes out. So this portal is opening up that truth. And in that particular example, maybe you find out that it was never you at all. It was this one person stirring the pot or manipulating the situation and creating this drama. And although that doesn't suddenly make everything okay, it gives you this really valuable clarity. It gives you closure because you're no longer left wondering what happened. Now you know, and it's empowering to know that you can do what you want with that information. And you don't have to forgive anybody if you don't want to. Whatever, regardless of what the situation is, you don't have to forgive anybody, and you certainly don't have to go back to that situation. But I do think there's something very, very freeing about understanding the truth, being given that access to truth. Like, once you have that, it becomes a lot easier to leave the past where it belongs and carry on walking towards everything this new portal has been opening up for you guys. So moving on to your oracle cards, I think they fit really beautifully with everything we've already spoken about. With Connect with Your Womb, this immediately takes me back to the energy check where we were talking about creation and birthing something new into the world. Obviously, you know, this could absolutely relate to fertility, pregnancy, womb healing, restoring a cycle, if that's relevant to your life at all. And if that's something you've been hoping for, then this could be a really beautiful confirmation for you guys. There could even be something around finally getting answers about your health or your body that help things make a lot more sense. It could be like a diagnosis or something. I am not diagnosing anything. I am not a clinician. Go and get checked out by a clinician if you haven't done. But it's like getting something that helps you move forward. But of course, you know, I think this goes far beyond the physical womb. It feels symbolic of that life force energy that we've been talking about throughout this whole pile. You know, it's reconnecting with the part of yourself that creates, that nurtures, that brings things into existence. I'm wondering whether this portal is going to encourage you to become much more in tune with your own body and your own rhythms and your own energy. Maybe you're paying more attention to when you naturally have energy and when you need to rest, or maybe you're finding yourself drawn towards things like breathwork or journaling because they help you reconnect with that part of yourself. It feels like a much deeper relationship with your own intuition and your own body. And we have sacrifices, and I'm not seeing this as a scary card whatsoever. I think this is acknowledging that sometimes we do have to let one thing go in order to make space for something better. And that doesn't mean that it isn't difficult. Sometimes the right decision, it does feel like it comes with a cost. Maybe, you know, you leave a job that's making you miserable, as one example, and you know that there will be a sacrifice there because you know you will have to tighten your budget for a little while. But you also know that your peace is worth so much more and that it's worth it. It'll be worth it in the end. Maybe you let go of an old habit, an old identity, or a way of living that just doesn't fit the person you're becoming anymore. And you know you may have to sacrifice things that maybe bring you a false sense of comfort and something familiar in order to reach the highest version of you. This could even link back to what we were talking about with the Five of Swords reversed, where the sacrifice is like putting your ego aside because you know that protecting your peace is ultimately far more valuable than winning the argument. For some of you, especially if you do spiritual work, this could also relate to making an offering to a deity or to an ancestor as part of your own personal practice. Obviously, that won't apply to everybody, but it's coming through pretty strongly, so I wanted to mention it. Then we have this Serpent card, awakening to knowledge. Knowledge is power, is something I'm getting, and I'm also getting this word uncoiling. And I think we mentioned that something laying dormant inside you was uncoiling. I'm sure we mentioned that right at the start of your reading. So yeah, something is beginning to wake up. You are remembering something. You're understanding something. It's like another layer of yourself is unfolding. I'm also getting like a snake shedding its skin. You know, this whole pile has been about birthing something new, and in order for that to happen, there are parts of the old version of you that naturally have to fall away. And you're not becoming somebody else in the process of this shedding of skin. You are becoming more of yourself. You're getting more to the core of you, the soft underbelly. And for some of you with that snake-like energy and it saying awakening to knowledge, this could also be that moment where you recognize somebody's behavior for what it is. Like if there has been somebody, like we said, acting sneaky or manipulative, it feels like you're seeing it clearly now. You're not questioning yourself because you have the knowledge. And once you have that knowledge, it becomes a lot easier to decide what you want to do with it. And then we have summer. Yeah, I love this because it feels like everything is just reaching a full bloom. For a lot of you, I do think this could be pointing towards timing. You know, something significant could happen this summer. If you're watching this during summer at the time I upload, this thing could be very close. Maybe this portal is already beginning to open, but I also think summer is describing the energy itself. You know, summer is the season where everything is alive. Everything has had the chance to grow. The light is at its strongest, and you finally get to enjoy what you've been nurturing. That fits your pile and your energy perfectly, pile 3, because, you know, this whole reading it's been about bringing something into existence, something waking up inside you, something finding its way into the light. And it feels like this portal is opening a season where you're able to just fully appreciate that more wholly. There is so much abundance here, so much creative energy, and such a strong feeling of life expanding around you. And I actually think this is one of those readings where like 6 months or a year from now even, you're going to look back and realize that this portal, this was the moment that everything started changing. Maybe not all at once, but you know, this really does feel like the beginning of a brand new chapter, pile 3. So that is what I'm getting for your reading, and that is where I'm going to leave you today, my loves. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If anything resonated for you, even the tiniest thing, please comment and please let me know what that thing was. Even if it's just something small, I would really appreciate that. Or if you don't feel comfortable letting me know what resonated, please feel free to just let me know which pile you picked. That helps a small channel like mine so much, and I never ever take your comments for granted. I notice every single one. If you get a chance, please like the video, hype, share, sub. These are all amazing ways to support me. But if you don't get a chance to do that, I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen. I really appreciate it. With that said, thank you so much for being here. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one, pile 3. Hi Powerful Collective, if you chose the Priestess, how are you being called to step up and lead card with the lemon macaroon sticker, and we're going to be using the blooming cat tarot, then you are in the right place. Welcome to your reading, friends. If you would like to know what to expect from today's reading, I would recommend checking out my intro. I do go through absolutely everything there. I will also leave some details in the pinned comment below for your reference. I recommend checking at least one of those out so you know what to expect from this reading today. But if you just want to go ahead and jump straight into it, today's reading is the Lionsgate Portal, the door that's about to open for you. So let's have a look at the first card you chose, which is this beautiful Priestess card. Very reminiscent of the High Priestess, that's how it's reading to me. And this is a really interesting question that's on the card. How are you being called to step up and lead? So you can maybe ponder that whilst I read from the guidebook to ground this energy. So, Priestess. The Priestess is a teacher dedicated to service, freedom, and leadership. You don't need to have it all together to lead. In fact, it helps if you don't. No one wants a perfect angel who hasn't made any mistakes. Let your life be your message. Don't underestimate the power of sharing your story. It's by hearing someone else's journey that we feel less alone. We realize that we're actually all in this thing called life together. The difference between a follower and a leader is that a leader has the courage to go first. In stepping out, they shine a light on the path for others to venture forward too. Don't fret too much about trying to work out who is your tribe. Don't get stuck in age, income, hobbies, or occupation. The best way to discover your tribe is to look in the mirror. If you feel called to lead, chances are it is because at some point in your life you longed for someone to lead you. Your tribe are longing for exactly the same thing as you were, and are, and might only be one step behind you. Hell, they may even be right alongside you. You don't need anyone's permission, just the courage to stand up. Embrace your struggles, the peaks, the troughs. You don't need to know the way, just believe that there might be a different one. Your tribe is waiting for you. Step forward so they can find you. Work your light inquiry. How are you being called to step up and lead? How can you be the leader you wish you had? I think sometimes when we hear the word leader, I think often these kind of stereotypes come into our head, and we might think of somebody who is loud or somebody who tells everyone what to do, somebody who likes being in charge. But as I'm looking at this Priestess energy, that is not the energy I'm getting at all. This to me feels much more like somebody who gently guides people, somebody who helps others reconnect with themselves, maybe somebody who bridges the spiritual and the physical world, or the subconscious and the conscious world, and somebody who helps people make sense of experiences they perhaps couldn't fully understand on their own. There's a deeply, deeply intuitive quality to this card. This feels very connected to the rhythms of nature and to the cycles of the earth and to the divine feminine, and to somebody who understands that not everything can be explained purely through logic. Sometimes we just know things, and this priestess energy trusts that inner knowing because they know there's value in that inner knowing. I definitely think this portal could be asking some of you to step into the role of teacher in some way, and that doesn't have to mean, in the stereotypical sense of like standing at the front of a classroom doing a lecture. This could be creating content, this could be mentoring, this could be becoming a coach or guide, or just being the person everyone naturally comes to when they need advice. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if some of you already are this person, like that is your natural role that you gravitate towards, or should I say, like, people gravitate towards that in you. I also wouldn't be surprised if you guys were lifelong learners. Like, you genuinely love learning new things for the sake of learning, or you get fascinated by certain subjects. I wouldn't be surprised if your love language was info dumping. Like, you guys might find something really interesting and immediately you just want to tell everybody else about it, because you think, oh my god, like, you'll love this. Whether it's psychology or herbal remedies, plant medicine, astrology, tarot, mythology, ancient history, any kind of like occult or spiritual knowledge is something I'm getting, but it doesn't have to be those things. It could be something completely different. I just feel like you're somebody who is constantly gathering wisdom, and you just tend to know a lot about a lot, or it's like you've had a lot of experience and you just naturally kind of share this with the people around you. It makes you come across as very wise. There's also this feeling that you've been searching for understanding for a very long time. Some of you may have grown up feeling like certain authority figures in your life weren't really the people you needed them to be. So as a couple of examples, maybe you guys struggled with teachers at your school because you challenged them. Maybe you challenged their authority, you didn't agree with it, or maybe you felt like they didn't understand you, or they didn't give you the support you needed. For others of you, this could have been parents or caregivers. Like, maybe as you got older, you started realizing that their beliefs or value system, their morals didn't really resonate with your own, and you felt this pull to sort of forge your own path instead. Even sort of more generally speaking, I think some of you have probably become disillusioned with leadership as a concept. Because, like many of us, you could look at political figures, people in positions of power, influencers with big platforms, and you think, why does leadership always seem to become about power and about ego? It can feel very black and white sometimes, or like people abuse their position instead of using it to genuinely help others, which is maybe something that you've always wanted to do. But yeah, because of that, I almost wonder if you've distanced yourself from the idea of being a leader. Like, you don't want to tell people what to do. You don't want to become just another person who thinks they have all the answers. You're not claiming to, but I think that's exactly why this card is so beautiful. You're not being asked to control people, you're not being asked to be domineering, you're being asked to guide them. This portal is opening up your natural ability to mentor and teach and support other people. Whether you are passing knowledge on, or you're learning from somebody yourself and sharing the things you've discovered, or you're using your own life experiences to help somebody else feel less alone. There's something here about your journey becoming useful to other people. I also keep getting this message about creating a safe space. Like, you guys, you don't strike me as people who are interested in like toxic positivity, or pretending everything happens for a reason while somebody is in the middle of one of the worst moments of their life. This feels much more compassionate than that, right? It feels like you guys allowing people to experience the full range of human emotions without judgment. Basically like encouraging people to be authentic instead of perfect, right? And creating an environment where people feel safe enough to tell the truth about how they're genuinely feeling. And I think this priestess energy, it suits you guys so well, because this portal is making it very clear that you guys are at your most magnetic when you are authentic. Like, you don't have to become this polished, perfect version of yourself who has always made the right decisions and never done anything wrong in order for your words to have value. In fact, I actually think people are going to trust you more because you have lived through difficult things, and they can feel that honesty and that rawness in the way you speak and the way you deliver a message, and it naturally makes people want to listen to you. There could be something about a fear of being seen because, you know, stepping into this role that this portal is opening, it could feel like a big responsibility. But I think people sort of sense how genuine you are, and that's exactly why they gravitate towards you. There's something just so natural about it. It just makes sense. And I think this portal is actually opening up a different kind of leadership altogether, because I think this is the thing, like some of you guys, you challenge authority, but you feel like maybe in society, you know, there shouldn't be these hierarchies. You maybe don't like the idea of hierarchies. And I think that's why you kind of shy away from it, because yes, you love giving people advice and you're good at that, but you never want anyone to feel like you are saying that you're better than them or something like that. And that's not what this is about. Like, I think that's actually like a part of your brand of leadership, is that you are somebody who notices current systems and you question why they work the way they do. Like, you can often see where things aren't serving people or communities anymore, and you sort of instinctively start thinking about how they could be done differently. It feels like you are paving your own path rather than following somebody else's, and in doing that, it gives other people permission to do the same, not in your way, but in their way, basically. Like, you're not saying, oh, follow me, everybody do this. You're saying, use my advice and make it your own thing, like become who you are meant to be. Yeah, it feels like a really refreshing kind of energy, because this is leadership that's rooted in humanity and in connection and in intuition. And I just think the world needs a lot more of that. Another thing I'm getting is, I won't be surprised if some of you guys have been told you have a really penetrating gaze, or you have eyes that feel like they stare straight into people's souls. I won't be surprised if people have said to you, you know, I feel like you can read me like a book, or you looked at me and I felt like you just knew exactly what I was thinking. There's something very perceptive and psychic about you guys. People often feel seen by you, sometimes before they've even said very much at all. Some of you could have also been told that you have a very healing touch, or like the Midas touch is something I'm getting. People could comment that your hugs make them feel instantly better, instantly calmer, or they just leave your company feeling lighter than when they arrived. There is something about your presence that feels very restorative. It feels like people open up to you without you trying to get them to open up. This portal really feels like it's opening up this time where your wisdom is going to be respected and honoured in a much bigger way. People are going to be listening to what you have to say and valuing your perspective. And it just feels like you're stepping into this sacred role model energy very naturally. It doesn't seem like you're chasing recognition, but recognition is going to find you anyway, because you built trust with people over time. For some of you guys, this could literally involve you becoming more visible, more in the public eye, having more eyes on you, more people listening to you, more opportunities to speak or share your ideas. Something about stepping onto a stage or behind a podium keeps coming into my head. This could also be, you know, becoming your own boss, leading a group or a small team, facilitating workshops, or just taking on some kind of leadership role where people naturally look to you for guidance. I do think there is a message about protecting your energy. If you're somebody who absorbs the emotions of the people around you, this would be a really good time to become more intentional about energetic boundaries. I'm getting something about a veil. Some of you might already veil. Something about cleansing your energy, especially after being around a lot of people. You could have these little rituals that help you kind of come back to yourself. If you don't already, this portal could encourage you to develop those practices. Simply, I think, because more people are going to be drawn towards your energy. It's not something to worry about, it's just something to think about implementing in preparation for this. I also think this portal could be directing you towards your tribe, right? Because the guidebook kept mentioning your tribe. So basically what I want to say is there are people who have been looking for somebody exactly like you, whether that's a friendship group, a spiritual community, people who enjoy your creative work, or people who simply just resonate with the way you see the world. This feels like you are finding your people and they are finding you too. I also wouldn't be surprised if some of you have strong 11th house or Aquarius energy, because there are just so many themes coming through around like community and friendships and, you know, bringing like-minded people together. I don't know why I'm thinking of this. This is really random. This is just popping into my head. But if you're around my age or older, you will probably remember getting magazines every week or fortnight. Before the internet was like a big thing. I'm thinking of those magazines that had like those agony aunt columns. Like as a kid, if you used to read those and think like, how does this person know how to answer absolutely everything, even like the really awkward or sensitive questions? It almost didn't feel like there was an actual human being writing those answers. It just seemed like this sort of faraway, wise, all-knowing presence who somehow always knew the right thing to say. Or that's how I sometimes experienced it anyway. It seemed like a wise guru, and that's honestly what your energy reminds me of, Pal 4. It feels like you have this ability to like sit with people through difficult conversations. Even when somebody asks you something that's messy or complicated, you're not shying away from it. You're not trying to shut the conversation down or rush towards a solution or force them into a solution. You work through it with them. You help them untangle it. And I think that's a very, very rare gift to have. And it's a gift you've probably always had. I'm also getting an image, oh, don't take this the wrong way, but I'm getting the image of a cult leader. Now, obviously, I am not saying that you are a cult leader. What I mean is, like, you have that kind of presence where you can captivate people. You are able to explain things in a way that just lands with people. People listen when you speak because what you're saying just resonates with them on this deep level. And the funny thing is, I actually think that's why this power, you are aware of your power, and I think that's why it's felt a little scary for you, because you never want to be the type of person who would let power corrupt and become this cult leader and influence people in the wrong way, or like you never want to take advantage of that trust. You don't want followers for the sake of having followers, you know, you want people to be able to think for themselves. Ironically, I think that's actually why you're somebody who can be trusted with that kind of power and influence. This portal, though, it's not opening up power for just the sake of having it. It's opening up your leadership potential because you've always understood the responsibility that comes with that. So I hope this is resonating for you so far, Pal 4. We are now going to move along to your tarot so we can elaborate on this story that's coming through. So let's have a look at what we pulled for you. Okay, Pal 4. So starting over here on the left from the Blooming Cats Tarot, we have the Chariot. And clarifying the Chariot, we have the Hanged Cat. Interesting combination. We have got the Eight of Cups, and clarifying the Eight of Cups, we have the King of Swords. We have got the King of Wands. Okay, so lots of king energy, lots of sovereign energy, royal energy coming through. Clarifying the King of Wands, we have the Seven of Pentacles. That came through on another pile today, but I can't remember which one it was. I'm sorry. That's interesting though. We have got the Fool, and clarifying the Fool, we have got the Empress. The Empress has come through a few times today as well, I'm pretty sure. Again, I'm not sure of the piles, but the Empress is a recurring theme for us today. And let's have a look at a few more Oracle cards. We have got number 48, spend time with animals. That's very cute. Queen of Everything, gorgeous. We have World Soul, sense of completion. And we have Silence. Okay, so with the Chariot and the Hanged Man, the reason I said this was an interesting card pairing is because at first glance, they almost feel like complete opposites, right? But actually, with you being the High Priestess that you are, I think you understand opposites better than most people. You understand duality, Pal 4, which is a word I love to say on this channel. You guys, you have this understanding that life isn't just all light and sunshine and rainbows. It's shadow too. There does seem to be this really deep connection to nature running through this pile, and not just in the sense of like appreciating the beautiful parts of nature. This feels like somebody who isn't afraid to like explore the darker aspects of humanity and nature either. You know, nature can be beautiful, but it can also be destructive. There's something about wildfires. I'm getting like wildfires now. I guess there has been a lot of wildfires recently, but that's popping into my head. But also shadow work, deep emotional healing, somatic processing, whatever that looks like for you. It feels like you're somebody who you're able to sit with people through all of it. You know, you're not somebody who only wants to be around when life is easy, who only wants to be around for the good times. Like, you can sit with somebody on the best day of their life and celebrate that with them, but you can sit with them on their worst day too. You do not shy away from that. It doesn't make you feel uncomfortable like it does with some people. It almost feels like you are willing to descend into the darkness with somebody because you know that's often where the healing begins. And I keep getting this image of like a cavern opening wider and wider so more light can spill into it. I don't know why that image is coming through, but that just feels significant and I wanted to share it. But yeah, if we take this chariot in the very literal sense, right? This portal could absolutely open up some kind of actual journey or travel for you guys. This could be a road trip, it could be crossing a border, visiting somewhere new, or just getting out into the world more. But beyond this concept of literal travel, this feels like knowing where you're heading in life, like you have a destination in mind, but at the same time, you are no longer panicking if the route changes slightly along the way. This portal is opening up so much focus and determination for you guys. The willpower is absolutely there, but it isn't coming from a place of like trying to force things, to trying to force everything to fit and control things. You guys are motivated to keep moving forward, but you're also able to trust the process enough if life throws in a little detour. And I think that's where this hanged man comes in, because it's like, even if part of you feels pulled in different directions, sometimes at least, it's almost as though your subconscious has taken the wheel. So like, you're still driving the vehicle, you're still choosing the destination, but you are also allowing at times that deeper and wiser part of yourself to guide the route instead of your conscious self trying to control every turn. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this concept, because it's quite an abstract thing that I'm trying to describe, but it's almost like this portal is opening up a flow state. Your higher self, your intuition, your spiritual self, whichever language you personally prefer, I hope you know what I'm trying to say, that higher self starts steering things behind the scenes. And your conscious mind begins trusting that guidance instead of fighting against it. And if we use like the traditional chariot imagery as a metaphor, you know, these sphinxes are often shown as these black and white creatures, right? Very simply, we could think of these creatures as the conscious and the unconscious, or the light and the shadow. The white sphinx knows the destination. The black sphinx occasionally wants to pull off the road. And normally we would think, no, like we're supposed to be going this way. But instead, you find yourself trusting it. Maybe that detour takes you to a little roadside cafe you never would have stopped at otherwise. And that's where you meet somebody who is crucial to your journey. Or maybe you discover something at a service station that you need for this journey. Or you have a conversation there that completely changes your perspective. But whatever it is, there was a reason for taking the longer route or taking the scenic route. And that's what this portal is teaching you. It's teaching you that your shadow isn't trying to like sabotage your journey. It's trying to guide you. You know, this isn't the chariot reversed where everything feels chaotic and out of control. You're not like veering wildly from one direction to another without any sense of purpose. This is both parts of you working together. One keeps its eye on the conscious destination, whilst the other reminds you that there is still so much wisdom to be found along the journey, with stops along the way. So this absolutely isn't stopping you from taking action. If anything, I think you're going to be feeling incredibly motivated, powerful. But the difference is, you're not going to be trying to force every outcome. You understand, you have a new understanding that the pauses are just as important as the movement. This portal almost feels like it's teaching you the importance of those sacred pauses. You are still traveling, you're still progressing, you're still moving towards whatever this destination is, but your higher self also knows when it's time to stop and refuel, when it's time to rest and reflect and to process everything that's happened before setting off again. The momentum doesn't disappear, but it starts moving in harmony with your natural rhythms instead of against your natural rhythms. And even if you catch yourself at times occasionally wishing with your conscious mind that things would happen a little bit faster, this portal keeps bringing you back to the understanding that things unfold in their own sacred time. You don't have to push harder every time things slow down. Sometimes the slowing down is an integral part of this journey, and trusting that is exactly what allows you to keep moving forward at a consistent pace. And with the Eight of Cups and the King of Swords, the first thing I'm hearing is, okay, this wasn't part of the plan, but that's okay. And I don't know why that's coming through so strongly, but I think it links back to everything we've been talking about with those detours. It's like this portal is helping you realize that it's okay if life doesn't unfold exactly as you imagined or originally planned. You are still figuring things out, you are still learning, and that doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. Somebody needs to hear that. This pairing feels like a really, really important part of your inner journey, pal 4. The 8 of Cups is often associated with walking away, and I'm not interpreting this as you running away from something. That is important. This feels much more like you recognizing that perhaps you have outgrown something, like it no longer fulfills you in the way that it once did. And instead of forcing yourself to stay because you have invested so much time or so much emotion into it, you're giving yourself permission to leave with love and respect. The King of Swords is a very, very interesting energy to get with the 8 of Cups, because it's like this portal is allowing you to step back and see the situation and observe it from a higher perspective or vantage point. And it's sort of in a detached way, but when I say detachment, I don't mean it as in like becoming cold or emotionally shut off. I mean looking at something with enough distance that you're able to see it clearly for what it is. This portal is essentially allowing you to cut through the noise and see things for what they actually are, see the truth of the matter. Maybe you guys have spent some time reflecting on a particular something, wondering what it could become, or holding on to the potential of a situation, or wishing for something to be different. But now you are looking at it as it exists today, and you are making decisions based on what is actually in front of you, rather than what you hope might happen one day. Sometimes we do have to put our head over our heart, and I think that's kind of what this portal is encouraging you to do. And it's not because feelings don't matter, but because there are moments in life where the kindest thing we can do is acknowledge the objective truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. This King of Swords energy doesn't feel like harsh or unfeeling to me. It doesn't feel cold or brutal. It feels like the most compassion that you could give yourself or anyone else, because it's asking, what is genuinely the fairest outcome here? Not just for one person, but for everyone involved. Because sometimes showing compassion means being honest with ourselves and whoever else is involved. Sometimes it means respecting yourself enough to share that honesty. Not what you hope, not what you want it to be, not what it could be, but what it is. This portal is giving you that sharp perception. You're able to process what's happening without becoming completely overwhelmed by the emotion of it and getting lost in the sauce, is what I want to say. Like, you still have empathy though. You do, powerful, but your empathy, it's not going to be clouding your judgment. You're seeing the bigger picture here, and that allows you to make decisions that are fair, logical, balanced, and rooted in objective truth and facts. And that makes sense, especially because we've spoken a lot about leadership. Again, you're not somebody who wants to misuse your influence or your power. You know you have a responsibility to be solid and to ask the right questions, and therefore, you're much more interested in asking, like, what's actually true here? What is the fairest decision I can make? For some of you, this could involve speaking your truth or sharing an opinion. It could involve navigating some kind of conflict, or recognizing that a situation has been serving somebody else far more than it's been serving you. But whatever this is, it feels like you are making your decision based on what you can clearly see, rather than what somebody else is telling you or what you wish the situation would become. For some of you, it could be literally walking away from something no longer fulfilling, a relationship, a job, a friendship, a goal you've outgrown. But the important thing to note is that there is no bitterness here. There is an acceptance that you've reached the end of the road with something, and it's an acknowledgement that that is okay. It was just one of those important detours, but it helped you on your journey. You're at peace with that. Some of you could even find yourselves in a position where you're being asked to make an important decision on behalf of other people. And if that's the case, I think this card pairing is reminding you that your role isn't to keep everyone happy. It is to be fair. It is to look at the facts. It's to trust your judgment. And it's to make the decision that feels most aligned with the truth. And I just keep hearing this phrase, and it's, I'm not going to do things your way. I'm going to do them in the way that makes the most sense to me. And I just feel like that's a really powerful place for you guys to be at. I'm also getting the phrase greater good, but I think that's just spirit having a bit of a joke, because we mentioned the cult thing earlier. But yeah, you are genuinely doing things for the greater good. With the King of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles, this portal is allowing you guys to step into your natural leadership abilities, like we've been mentioning from the beginning. Of course, we got the King of Wands, you know, there's a confidence here, there's a commanding presence, but it actually feels like you're growing into a role that you were always meant to play. It seems like this portal is making you incredibly inspiring to the people around you, pal 4. And it's like you guys are finding the confidence to execute your ideas more boldly. You might be finding that people are coming to you more for advice. They really are valuing your perspective. And you might even notice that you guys are becoming more sort of quick on your feet and witty when it comes to conversations or when it comes to helping other people work through a problem. It's like you automatically know the solution, or you have the right words and they just arrive when you need them. You could be very charismatic at this time. But at the same time, I don't think you're making rush decisions, because what's so lovely with the Seven of Pentacles, clarifying this, is that, yeah, you're going to be decisive, but you're also going to be thoughtful, right? You know when something needs a little bit more time, and you're comfortable sitting with it before moving forward if you're uncertain. It does feel like you're stepping into some kind of talent that you were born with, but it's really come alive during this time. Your creative energy is sparking up. I keep getting the phrase sparking up through this portal. You just have so many flowing ideas, so much inspiration all of a sudden, and just this sense that your inner fire has been lit again. And that's funny because we mentioned wildfires. But yeah, you could just be feeling much more charming and charismatic to people, or just more confident in social situations and more willing to put yourself out there. If any of you guys have any entrepreneurial dreams, this feels like an incredible energy to work with during this time, because you're combining your King of Wands vision with that Seven of Pentacles patience. People could just be seeking you out for guidance a lot more, asking your opinion on things, wanting to know what you think, trusting your judgment. But the Seven of Pentacles is kind of keeping you grounded too. Like, it's acknowledging that good things don't always just happen overnight. You know that, and you're not expecting like instant gratification. You are in this for the long haul. You understand that passion is only sort of one part of the equation. The vision is there, the motivation is there, the confidence is there, the fire is lit, but at the same time, you're also prepared to keep showing up consistently, because you know that consistency is how like a lasting success and an empire is built. I'm also getting that song right now. Oh, I can't even remember the name of it, but it's that one that, like, I feel like we used to sing this song in school or something, but it's like the 10% skill, no, 10% skill, 20% luck, something concentrated power of will, and it's like 100% reason to remember the name or something like that. I just keep hearing that. So it feels like you guys are going to have that sort of energy surrounding you where you genuinely believe you've got what it takes. You're exactly who you think you are, and others people start believing that too. You're going to have the confidence to think bigger, but you're not, letting that confidence run away with you. You're not getting carried away. You're staying grounded enough to keep refining your work and keep learning as you go. And that builds stronger foundations for your ideas. And with the Fool clarified by the Empress, again, this is such an interesting pairing, because there's this theme running all the way through your reading of like seemingly opposite dual energies coming together. The Fool is like often about taking a leap into the unknown, whereas the Empress is nurturing and grounded and very, very connected to herself. And on paper, they almost shouldn't work, but here they do. In your energy, they do, pal 4. And I actually think this portal is helping you find this balance between movement and stillness, between taking action and knowing when to pause. And it sounds like a contradiction, but it's exactly what's going to make this next chapter so successful. You guys are learning that life doesn't have to be all action or all rest, all or nothing. Like, both things have their place, and you guys are beginning to trust the natural rhythm between the two energies. What's also really interesting is that we've got this sense of completion oracle card, which I will come back to in a moment. But then, we have the Fool, who represents the beginning of the entire tarot journey. So it's like this portal is allowing you to complete one cycle and begin another. Because that's the beauty of the Fool's journey, isn't it? Like, we reach the end, we integrate what we've learned, and then we can begin again. We can become anew, but this time we're carrying all of that wisdom with us. So although this is a brand new chapter, you're not starting something completely from scratch. You're starting from experience, and that experience is crucial. The Fool can sometimes be interpreted as impulsive and carefree, and yeah, I do think there are going to be moments where you guys are called to follow an impulse that doesn't immediately make sense, and that actually kind of reminds me of what we spoke about with the Chariot and those little detours you're going on. There's going to be those moments where something nudges you in a direction you otherwise wouldn't have followed or you weren't expecting, and I really do think it is important to trust those moments, but at the same time, it doesn't feel reckless. You're not making reckless decisions. It doesn't feel like, oh, fuck it, I don't think I should be doing this, but I'm just going to do it. It feels a lot more guided than that. It's as though your higher self already knows why you're being pulled in that direction, even if your conscious mind can't quite see it yet. And because we've already had that King of Swords energy, these aren't completely uncalculated risks. Okay, if my camera suddenly looks darker, it's because I went to go eat and my food arrived. I had a vegan royale from Burger King. if anyone's interested, which you're probably not. But yeah, I hardly ever get Uber Eats or anything like that anymore, but apologies in advance for TMI. I am on day 2 of my period and I simply did not have the energy to cook this evening because the cramps are cramping. So anyway, just wanted to explain that in case it all of a sudden looks different for you guys. But yeah, what was I talking about? Risks. These aren't uncalculated risks. There has been thought put into these decisions. You guys have weighed things up. You have listened to your intuition. And as you guys continue moving through this portal, I actually think that process becomes more instinctive because you are learning to trust yourself more and more. That's why I think you could end up feeling incredibly carefree during this chapter, whilst also being grounded at the same time. You are like enjoying your life and you're allowing yourself to be excited and you're approaching things with curiosity and with an open heart, but you're not losing yourself in the process, I think is what I want to say. Like, this new beginning, it does ask for a degree of faith, absolutely, but it also asks you to, check in with yourself and nurture yourself along the way, to make sure that you are still aligned with the person you're becoming instead of sort of charging ahead simply because you feel like you should. There is this really nice energy of saying like, I've never done this before, but I'd like to try. Not because you're just flippantly like acting on impulse and on a whim for the sake of it all of the time, but because something inside of you genuinely believes this could become something beautiful. I'm also getting this feeling of like you dipping your toe into something new without like completely abandoning everything you've already built. So it could be balancing 2 creative projects for a while at the same time. It could be exploring a different career path before fully committing to it, or just you guys, giving yourself more permission to experiment with things without feeling like every decision has to be permanent. It doesn't feel like sort of putting all of your eggs in one basket. It feels a lot more sort of grounded than that. The Empress also, I'm sorry if you can hear loads of laughing in the background, by the way. I think one of my neighbours is having a party and somebody just keeps like laughing at the top of their lungs, which, I mean, good for them, like they're having fun, and that is very much like fool energy, Didn't invite me to the party, but that's okay because I'm a Taurus moon, so I would probably be in bed anyway. But yeah, the Empress here, she also reminds us to approach this whole journey with this sense of unconditional love. It's this ability to appreciate that we cannot control every outcome, and that's okay. We're allowing things to unfold more naturally instead of just trying to force them into existence. It feels like you guys are becoming more receptive and you're allowing opportunities to find you just as much as you are seeking them out. I also think you guys are going to feel incredibly magnetic during this time. There's something very attractive about your energy. It's not just physically though, it's actually energetically. This seems like a beautiful time to truly take care of yourself, to invest in taking care of yourself, to nourish yourself, to enjoy your body, to enjoy your creativity and your environment, and just kind of let yourself bloom into this next chapter. I think this portal is saying, lean into excitement, but fundamentally stay rooted in who you are, because that's where everything starts to flourish. And talking about your oracle cards, spend time with animals. Oh, that's so cute. The first thing I'm getting with that card is that this portal is like a much deeper connection to animals and to nature generally. If you guys already have pets, you could find yourself wanting to spend even more time with them because it just feels nourishing for your soul. Being outside too, especially around trees or wooded areas, feels particularly restorative. I wouldn't be surprised if this portal opens up opportunities for more walks in nature, or if certain animals start like appearing as these little synchronicities along your path. There is something about animals gravitating toward you more during this time. It's like they can sense your energy. So for example, you could notice that a friend's pet that usually, doesn't like humans or is very standoffish, they suddenly won't leave you alone. Like they keep jumping up to sit on your knee, or a dog keeps coming over to say hello when you're out walking. It could even be something as simple as you guys like finding yourself stopping to help a bee with a little bit of sugar water, or you rescuing an injured bird, or feeling called to care for an animal in some way, or maybe being called to adopt or rescue an animal, like a new pet, whatever form it takes. I think your connection with the natural world is becoming even stronger. It could be like getting plants or something, like looking after plants or doing some gardening. I feel like that could be an important part of this portal for you, but equally it could be like more metaphorical, like plant things in your garden metaphorically. This Queen of Everything card is really making me smile. I feel like it echoes everything we've already spoken about. Like, people are going to be respecting you and listening to you a lot more. People are valuing your ideas, and it just feels like you're very effortlessly attracting the things you've been working towards simply because you are leaning into that flow state that we talked about. You could even find that during this portal, things you wished for months or even years ago suddenly just arrive, only for you to realize you've outgrown some of those things because you're heading somewhere even better. There definitely is this feeling of people sort of hanging on your every word. Again, it's not in this unhealthy sort of cult leader kind of way, but because your wisdom carries that weight and because you're in that priestess energy, it's like people are trusting what you have to say and really letting it sink in. I don't know why, but randomly I'm getting something about leg day coming through, so some of you guys could go to the gym. Maybe leg day is today or in the next couple of days. I have no idea who that's for, but I wanted to say it. I'm also getting something about hair extensions, or maybe somebody growing their hair longer. The Queen on this card has this beautiful flowing hair that feels significant for someone. It's funny as well because the way she's kind of holding those glowing orbs reminds me so much of the Priestess card you chose. Let's have a look at that again. Put it next to the Queen of Everything card. Yeah, definitely. They almost mirror one another, so it feels like this portal is opening up another level of spiritual development for you guys. It's like you're becoming much more aware of your own power and more comfortable holding it. This portal also feels like it's opening up a much deeper awareness of how interconnected everything really is. I'm not going to lie, for a handful of you, I do wonder whether you've recently had, or may eventually have, you've experimented with some kind of altered state of consciousness. This could just be like meditation, but I'm getting like a profound spiritual experience, so I was thinking perhaps some of you have maybe even experimented with like psychedelics or shrooms. If that doesn't resonate, just leave it. It's absolutely not for everyone, but I'm mentioning it because I'm getting this feeling of suddenly seeing life from a completely different perspective, almost as though your awareness kind of has expanded overnight. It feels like you guys are reaching the end of one journey whilst simultaneously standing at the precipice of another journey. Like, you've climbed to the top of a mountain, you've looked back at everything you've experienced, and then you've realized that there's like this whole new landscape waiting for you on the other side. And yeah, there is definitely an appreciation here for the interconnectedness of everything. You know, this idea that people, animals, nature, and the universe are not separate things, but are all, you know, woven together in this tapestry. And that makes sense, like, with nature as well. Like, if you were taking shrooms, people, you know, often recommend doing that in an open space, like surrounded by lots of nature, when you're in a good headspace. This isn't me recommending that. I'm just saying, like, that is what people say, okay? But yeah, like, if you're going to do it safely, sort of thing. But I think this portal helps you feel rather than just understanding concepts intellectually. I feel like this portal opens the door for some really profound insights. And with silence, I think this card is reminding you that some of your greatest wisdom is actually found in stillness. It's interesting because this image, it looks like it's underwater, and the fish that's depicted here, I could be wrong, like, I don't know everything about fish, but it looks like one of those fishes, fishy? I don't know why I struggled so much saying fishes. I think my brain is getting tired. It looks like one of those fishes that lives right. Why do I feel like I'm reciting a poem? It looks like one of those fishes that lives right down in the deepest parts of the ocean, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. I could be wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. So again, there's that message of, like, you are not afraid to explore the depth, metaphorically. You are not afraid to sit with yourself. You're not afraid to be alone with your own thoughts. In fact, I think this portal is helping you realize just how much clarity exists within silence. You guys might notice yourself during this time listening to fewer podcasts or fewer YouTube videos or less background noise in general, because you actually want to be able to hear your own thoughts and insight. You want to hear what your subconscious has been trying to tell you all along. And there's something really, really sacred about that. It feels like your best ideas and your deepest insights and some of the most meaningful spiritual experiences aren't going to arrive when everything around you is loud or when you're surrounded by external noise. They're going to arrive in the quiet moments where you are simply allowing yourself to exist. That's where the magic is for you. So that is what I'm getting for you, pal 4, and that's where I'm going to leave you today, my loves. I really hope you enjoyed this reading. I want to thank you so much for listening to this. If anything resonated for you, even just a tiny little thing, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about what that thing was. If you don't feel comfortable, let me know what resonated. Please just let me know which pal you picked or something like that. Leave an emoji, whatever you feel comfortable with. Leaving a comment or engaging in any way just helps me and my channel so much. I really appreciate it. As a very small creator with a very small channel, that is the best way to help me. You can also like, hype, sub, share, just whatever you can do to support the channel. And you know, if you can't do any of that right now, I just want to thank you so much for listening anyway and for being here. I really genuinely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take care, and I'll see you at the next one, pal 4. Hi, pal 5 Collective. If you chose the Warrior Woman card and you chose the Lemon Ice Cream sticker and the Modern Witch Tarot, then you're in the right place. So welcome to your reading, friends. If you'd like to know a little bit more about what to expect from today's reading, I would definitely recommend checking out my introduction. I do go through absolutely everything there. I will also leave some details in the pinned comment below for your reference. I would recommend checking at least one of those out just briefly so you know what to expect from this reading today. But if you just want to jump straight into this, today's reading is the Lionsgate Portal, the door that's about to open for you. So let's have a look at this first card that you were drawn to, which is this beautiful Warrior Woman card. And it says, have you answered your deepest calling? So I'm going to start off by reading from the guidebook, just bear with me. Okay, Warrior Woman, have you answered your deepest calling? You are here for a reason. You are being called to bravely pave a path. Have you answered your highest and deepest calling? Living a heart and soul-led life is not all fluffy and smooth sailing. Living a heart and soul-led life requires courage to triumph over fear. So often our fears are the gatekeepers to our greatest gifts, and the more resistance we have towards answering a call, the more important it is to our soul's growth. Sometimes fear is an indication that we are facing the right way. Joan of Arc was known for her courage and her famous line, "I'm not afraid, I was born to do this." But the thing about courage is that it is not possible without fear. So if you are feeling afraid, what is needed is courage, and courage comes from living from the heart. Think of your fears as opportunities to expand rather than things that are holding you hostage. If you look at your fears in this light, then, as uncomfortable as it might feel, it's actually a sign that you are on the right track. Work your light inquiry. Have you answered your deepest calling? Oh, okay, I absolutely love this card for you, pal 5, and straight away, right off the bat, some confirmations for you. I'm actually getting really strong Aries, Mars, first house or fire sign energy, so that could apply. It absolutely doesn't have to for this to be your pile, but there's definitely something about this Warrior Woman card that just screams courage and determination, and just somebody who refuses to stay down for very long is what I want to say. Interestingly though, I'm also getting Libra, and I know Libra isn't the first sign people tend to associate with the term warrior, but every Libra placement has a warrior inside them because there is such a deep drive for justice and fairness. So that could apply, you know, particularly if you're somebody who has always been very sensitive to injustice, or you tend to have really strong reactions when you see somebody being treated unfairly. That could definitely be another confirmation that you're in the right place. I also keep getting this feeling about you just needing to move your body. So there could be something to do with physical activity, sports, just movement generally. It doesn't necessarily have to be exercise in the traditional sense. It could simply be that, you know, movement has always been one of the healthiest ways for you to process your frustration or anger or your difficult emotions. Because I really do think this is the pile. Don't take this the wrong way, but I definitely think you guys have had to scream into a pillow out of sheer frustration at least once in your life. Because there's something about you where, like, if you see something that goes against your morals, it feels like you can't just walk away from it. Like, you have to say or do something. You have to stand up for what's right. And that doesn't necessarily mean like you're out here physically fighting. Although, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if some of you have ended up in fights or in heated situations because either you were trying to defend someone or you were just sticking up for doing the right thing. But more often than not, though, I think this might show up through your voice, like you speaking out, maybe challenging people or institutions, holding systems accountable, and maybe sometimes having quite polarizing opinions because you're willing to say the thing that other people are only thinking. It definitely feels like bravery has been a recurring theme throughout your life, Pal 5. And with that, some of you may have had difficult relationships with authority figures. I think we got a little bit of this coming through in Pal 4. But I'm thinking, teachers, parents, caregivers, managers, adults generally, people in positions of power. There could have been moments where you challenged these people directly because something just didn't sit right with you. It almost feels like you spent your life going up against these systems that weren't working. And even though it felt as though you were often the little guy sort of fighting the big guy, you couldn't just stay quiet about it. That's what this warrior woman energy reminds me of. You weren't, born to fight just for the sake of conflict, but you were sort of born to challenge things that aren't working and to speak up when you witness injustice. I'm also getting this sense that you guys could be incredibly protective. Like maybe you get more upset about somebody else's situation or their suffering than they even do. Like if somebody you love is hurting, it feels like you're somebody who will sit there right beside them, just ready to fight their corner. I feel like you guys naturally root for the underdog, and I won't be surprised if you guys have also often felt like underestimated yourself. People maybe don't always realize just how resilient you are because, maybe they've not seen everything you've had to survive and go through. But it does feel like you've kind of been wearing armor for a lot of your life. I do also want to say something that I think somebody here really needs to hear, and that is that it's okay to be afraid. And it's okay if sometimes that fear might come out as frustration or defensiveness or anger, especially if you have been through trauma or, you've been in that position where you've spent years or what feels like it, sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And obviously I'm not talking about, taking your anger out on innocent people because you've had a bad day. And of course, if you have noticed significant changes in your mood recently, then speak to a clinician, a healthcare professional about that, absolutely. But I do think it's saying there's something about this portal opening up like a healthy outlet for some of those emotions. It feels like your justified anger is being channeled into something meaningful instead of either having to stay bottled up inside you or instead of being channeled into more unhealthy outlets. You could have found that little things have been irritating you more than usual. Just little things like, people chewing too loudly or talking too loudly. Just these tiny things that maybe normally wouldn't bother you. Suddenly these things are feeling unbearable. To me, that is suggesting something inside you has been asking for this outlet. And it feels like this portal is helping you find that outlet, whether that is through movement or it's through creativity or it's making a bold and brave decision and feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Something is shifting here. You are not giving up. You're working through something. And also the biggest message I'm getting here throughout all of this is that Spirit recognizes just how hard you have been fighting. Now, for some of you, obviously this isn't going to apply to every single situation, but for some of you, you could have had a battle recently with your health as just one example. Because I'm thinking of when people use that term warrior to describe like a health battle they've been going through, like when people say like chronic illness warrior or, specific condition warrior or something like that. I'm getting that coming through. For others of you, this could be a relationship, a difficult separation, a divorce, or even like a court thing, or a corrupt system, like a corrupt workplace or something, or just life sort of throwing you one curveball after another. But whatever your personal battle has been, this card feels like some sort of recognition for that. And right now I'm actually picturing a boxing match, and it's like you're in the ring and you're taking a few hits, taking a few punches, you're exhausted. And then you look over to the corner, but your spirit guides are there, and they're kind of the ones, there's those people in a boxing match, like giving the opponents water and like sorting them out in the corner. I'm seeing something like that. Like that's what your spirit guides are doing. They're sort of patching you up between rounds. They're keeping you hydrated and reminding you to breathe, and they're like sharpening your sword for you before sending you back out there. But I feel like it's almost like they're saying, you don't have to keep proving how strong you are, because they're saying we already know that you're strong. Like you've shown that time and time again, and now it's like they want to prove something to you. They want to show you that everything you've fought through wasn't for nothing. They want to show you that your resilience has meant something, and that one day you're going to look back and be glad that you didn't give up, because it feels like this portal is opening the door to something that makes every battle worth it, or it makes sense at the very least. They're saying they know you'll always be a warrior, Pal 5, but I think it's that they're asking you to sort of put down the sword, not to forget that you have a sword, but just they don't want you to just survive anymore. Like, they want you to become an empowered warrior. And I feel like that's what this portal is opening for you guys. So that's what I'm getting for your energy check. We are now going to move along to your tarot. I hope this is resonating so far for you guys. And yeah, let's have a look at what else we've pulled for you. Let's elaborate on this story. Okay, Pal 5, so starting over here on the left from the Modern Witch Tarot, we have the Wheel of Fortune. And clarifying the Wheel of Fortune, we have the Two of Cups. What a gorgeous pairing. We have got Judgment, and clarifying Judgment, we have got the Queen of Wands. We have got the Ten of Swords, okay, makes sense. And clarifying the Ten of Swords, we have the Three of Wands. And we have the Four of Cups, and clarifying the Four of Cups, we have got the Page of Cups. And we've got a few more oracle cards for you. So over here on the left, we have 53, use your hands. We have Disconnect. We have got Endurance, the only way out is through. And we've got Music. Okay, I absolutely love the Wheel of Fortune and the Two of Cups for you guys, because it just feels like such a beautiful follow-up from what we were saying with that Warrior Woman card. It's almost as though Spirit is saying, you know, you've spent so long believing life has to be a battle, but what if it didn't? Like, what if it didn't have to be a battle? What if things could just be easy? And I think, you know, the Wheel of Fortune clarified by the Two of Cups, I think this is one of the best card pairings you could get if we're talking about like stepping through a portal, because this is all about your luck changing. You know, this is very much the wheel is turning in your favor. This portal is here to show you that things can truly start working out for you, Pal 5. That the wheel does not have to stay stuck forever. Life, it just isn't meant to feel like one endless uphill battle, or it's not meant to feel like every little step forward requires another fight. And, you know, even warriors, even the strongest people in the world, need a time to rest and recharge, okay? God's strongest soldiers, even they need to lie down from time to time, all right? They aren't supposed to spend every waking second in battle, you know, because if they did, they would have nothing left to give. And I almost feel like this is Spirit reminding you that things are capable of falling into place without you having to force every single outcome. You know, we can get so used to expecting the next problem or waiting for the other shoe to drop or for things to go wrong that we forget sometimes that life is also allowed to surprise us in these beautiful and exciting ways, and in ways that are favourable. Sometimes it doesn't have to be hard, like sometimes things simply align because they're supposed to. For this energy, it feels like a stroke of luck. I wouldn't be surprised if around the Lionsgate portal you do start noticing little lucky breaks, and you know, they might seem like small things individually, but it feels like together they create this momentum and this sort of feeling of like, wait a second, things are actually working out for me. And I'm hearing somebody saying like, is it the Cardi B meme that's like, that's suspicious? It feels like that. So maybe that's how you feel about it at first. But yeah, there's something like kind of divinely orchestrated by it, almost like, you know, the universe is stepping in and just giving you this helping hand and making things go more smoothly and more easily, maybe for the first time in a long time. I think the beautiful thing about the Wheel of Fortune is that it reminds us that change is inevitable and nothing stays the same forever. You know, the good things, the bad things, everything. Life is always moving. But if it's felt like, in particular, everything has been sort of against you lately, this is your reminder that, yeah, change is inevitable. The wheel has to turn eventually. Nothing is ever just fixed. Nothing is set in stone. And this portal feels like the beginning of that much more aligned cycle. It feels like you guys are breaking free from a chapter that has really, really demanded a lot of you, and you're stepping into one where life just begins flowing a lot more effortlessly instead of it feeling like it's constantly trying to resist you. Then we have that Two of Cups, and yeah, this absolutely feels like the universe itself is kind of meeting you halfway. Again, it no longer feels like you're pulling against life, you are working with it in harmony. There's definitely this beautiful sense of cooperation and mutual respect. I'm hearing somebody saying like you've earned your stripes or something, you've earned your stripes. Yeah, it feels like there's a lot more trust between you and the universe. I think you've had to keep believing things would get better, even when there wasn't really much evidence in front of you that it was getting better, and that's hard, right? Like, you've had to keep showing up, you've had to keep fighting, you've kept the faith alive, and now it kind of feels as though the universe or spirit is responding to that effort and saying like, okay, now let me carry some of the weight for you. For some of you, this could absolutely be about another person as well. The Two of Cups can represent meeting somebody who is meant to be a part of your journey. So this could be a soulmate, a life partner, an important friendship, a business partnership, somebody who just gets you. And that could especially apply if, you know, it feels like, or it has felt like, you would never meet your person, like that was off the table for you because relationships previously, things had gone wrong, nothing worked out, that's how it felt. This is like something changing in that regard, so that could absolutely be the case, however it applies for you. Yeah, you could absolutely be meeting somebody who just matches your energy, and it's like you guys share the same values, and you find it really easy to be around each other because there is that trust and that mutual respect and this profound connection that feels like balanced instead of one person putting everything into that relationship or friendship, and the other person taking. There's very much a meeting of, I wanted to say meeting of minds, but yeah, just this sense of meeting halfway. But whether this manifests through that other person or through your own relationship with life itself, the message feels the same. This portal is an excellent time to meet new people because you could just meet somebody very important and somebody who could potentially change the trajectory of your life with that Wheel of Fortune. This is an amazing time for like just meeting people out of the blue who are meant to change your life in whatever way that applies. But yeah, I keep coming back to this idea of fear that we spoke about in your energy check, that fear of believing that you always have to like be on guard, or that if something good happens, you need to kind of prepare yourself for when it inevitably falls apart. This portal is actually asking you to loosen your grip on that belief. This portal, it's showing you that not every blessing has to be fought for, and not every good thing comes with a hidden cost. Sometimes luck really does change. Sometimes life does start moving in your favor because it's just the right time for you. It's your time. And, you know, to me, the Wheel of Fortune, it does signify this huge karmic turning point. Like things, people and opportunities begin meeting you with the same energy that you've been pouring into the world for such a long time. And I really think that's one of the biggest shifts that this portal has to offer you guys. And I feel like this Judgment and this Queen of Wands, this pairing just feels so good too, especially when like coming after the Wheel of Fortune and the Two of Cups, because I feel like this very naturally builds on the idea of, right, first the wheel turns in your favor, and then Judgment sounds the trumpet, and Judgment is saying like, right, now what are you going to do with it? The Judgment card clarified by the Queen of Wands feels like that trumpet finally sounding very, very loudly. It's the wake-up call. It's, you know, this moment where something inside you suddenly clicks into place and you realize you cannot keep living life on autopilot anymore. There's this feeling of being called towards something bigger, this purpose, and this portal is asking you to answer that call. It's asking you to step into your own authenticity and to stop hiding parts of yourself that were never meant to stay hidden. And that's interesting because your Warrior Woman card says, you know, have you answered your deepest calling? So we're coming back to that idea. And yeah, I just keep hearing this phrase, wake up call, wake up call. Now, for some of you guys, this could have been something quite significant that's happened to you that's caused this. And this example definitely won't apply to everybody. You will know if it's for you. I'm just using it because it's the first one that popped into my head. But I'm thinking about like when somebody has a health issue and they recover, it kind of puts things into perspective for that person. Like if you have a huge health scare or just another major life event that completely shifts your perspective, it's sort of that wake-up call because it's one of those moments that makes you stop completely in your tracks and you think to yourself, hang on, like, what am I actually doing? Suddenly, you know, certain things you thought mattered don't seem nearly as important anymore. And maybe the things you've been putting off then become impossible to ignore. It's like you're reminded that you only get one life, and this portal is encouraging you to really, really live it. And, you know, I really do think that ties into that warrior woman energy because bravery has been such a huge theme throughout your reading so far. It's almost as though you've spent so long fighting to survive that now you're finally getting to ask yourself what you actually want to live for. Not what you want to survive for, but what you want to live for. And I think when you've been through something that shakes you to your core, whether that's health or a loss or heartbreak or burnout or any major life change, you often stop worrying so much about the little things. I think that's a common theme for any of us who have been through anything like that. Suddenly you're less concerned with those questions like, oh, what if I do this and this person judges me? Or what if I embarrass myself? Or what if I don't look good? Like, the superficial shit ceases to matter when you go through something like that, because you have been reminded how precious your time on this earth actually is. Like, you recognize that you are lucky to be here, and it doesn't mean that things are perfect, but you don't want fear to be the thing that stops you answering the call that's been sitting on your heart for a really, really long time, Pal 5. And I feel like, oh, this Queen of Wands is such a beautiful card for you guys to get, because this portal is helping you embody that confidence. And it's not because, like, you have just stopped caring completely, like you stopped feeling afraid. It's not because you're not fearful or anything like that, but it's because you know something much bigger now matters more than the fear does. Like, that is beginning to override the fear. You're beginning to realize that you do have what it takes. And for some reason, I don't know why, this is probably the cheesiest song I've ever channeled. No, it's probably not, actually. I think I've channeled cheesier, but I'm hearing Raw by Katy Perry. I have no idea why that's popping into my head. But the message fits, you know, you're a fighter. You've always been a fighter, but the difference now is that people are finally going to hear you roar. I'm so sorry. I think that is one of the cringiest things I've ever said. No, again, I think I've said worse. I think I have said worse, but that's genuinely the energy that's coming through here. But yeah, there's also something about leaving the past where it belongs. It feels like this portal is allowing you to put something down for good. There's some kind of karmic reckoning happening, guys, almost like the truth is coming to light. The wheel turns in your favour, and suddenly you can close a chapter that has been weighing on you for a very long time. This feels like a rebirth moment. But I'm also getting that part of that rebirth is forgiving yourself. Even if you're not the one to forgive. I don't know if that is going to make sense for anyone, but I think a lot of your frustration, even if something or somebody else is to blame for whatever this is, like if you have a health issue, that's not your fault, right? But you might still end up like having some internalized resentment towards your body or towards yourself, even though deep down you know it's not your fault. Or like if you experience a betrayal, like instead of sort of blaming that, well, you might blame that person, but equally you might kind of be mad at yourself for not seeing it sooner or something like that, even when you are not the one to blame for what happened to you. But it's also like forgiving yourself for the things you had to do in order to survive, and forgiving yourself for the version of you that was just trying to get through the day, because that version was a fighter and that version carried you through. It's understanding that those survival mechanisms served a purpose, but you know, that doesn't mean that they necessarily have to like run the show forever here, Pal 5. It feels like your inner voice is so much louder now. But that inner voice, it's embodying this Queen of Wands energy, and it's encouraging you to do something that sits just outside your comfort zone. And you're listening to your inner critic a lot less. You're listening to the part of yourself that knows you're capable, more than capable. I feel like there's a release from guilt here, almost like this moment of absolution. I keep getting the phrase absolution, whether that's somebody finally understanding your side of the story, or a truth coming out, or you reaching a place where you realise you don't have to keep carrying something that was never yours to carry. It feels like you guys are able to breathe again, and you're able to let that go. And Spirit is kind of saying like, you're clear now, you can move forward. And yeah, the Ten of Swords with the Three of Wands makes sense given what we've spoken about in the context of everything here. It does feel like this reading is acknowledging that at some point, you guys really did hit rock bottom. It felt like there was a definitive ending, a chapter that completely knocked the wind out of your sails. You know, this could have involved betrayal, burnout, grief, or just feeling like life had taken everything out of you. But whatever this was, it left a mark, and it kept you in that fighting state. For some of you guys, there could have been a lot of anger surrounding this situation, and for others of you, it could have felt more like guilt or shame, or just emotional baggage that you've been carrying around. Even if none of this was actually your fault ever, it almost feels like there wasn't really a safe place for those emotions to go, for those emotions to be put down. So maybe in the process of that, they kind of stayed bottled up inside you, and because of that, maybe it's been difficult to find closure. But this feels like one of those chapters where you have genuinely thought like, I wish that never happened about this situation. It was brutal, and it absolutely shattered and changed you from the inside out. I'm getting like you could have felt absolutely defeated, like you couldn't get up, you could have felt backstabbed, or just like you'd reached the lowest point you could possibly imagine, or your lowest point in a long time. And there may have been times when you actually wondered how you were ever supposed to come back from that situation. But this portal feels like the point where that story begins to change for you guys. But with the Three of Wands, like showing up under this Ten of Swords, it's not erasing what has happened. It takes everything you've lived through and it asks, where do we go from here? And I'm trying to be kind of careful with how I say this, because obviously we could be talking about a multitude of situations and sometimes things happen and we're never going to be grateful that they happened because they were just so brutal and terrible and cruel, and that is okay. I never want it to sound like toxic positivity when I talk about taking what we've learned, especially if it was to do with this horrible situation. If something terrible happened to you, it is okay if you still wish that it hadn't, and it's okay if you're still grieving, and it's okay if you're still angry. This isn't, me or your guides or anyone asking you to pretend it didn't hurt. They just don't want that pain to become the thing that defines you for the rest of your life. They don't want you to carry it at the forefront forever, especially when so much of it was actually never yours to carry in the first place. And they don't want you to have to bottle up your feelings. They want you to channel it into something, something meaningful. But it feels like this portal is opening the door to this much bigger chapter where your world starts expanding again. You are beginning to look towards the future instead of constantly looking back at what has happened. And again, it doesn't mean that you've forgotten it or you will ever forget it, because you don't have to. But it means you are starting to become more excited about what is ahead than you are consumed about the things you've left behind. This feels like life is becoming bigger again after a period where maybe it became very small and very contained because of this all-encompassing situation. Now, for some of you, this could be literal expansion. This could be growing a business, launching a project. It could be traveling. It could be making bigger plans than what you've allowed yourself to make for a long time. And for others of you, it could be a more internal thing. Specifically, I'm getting an example of like if you've been to therapy, and this might only apply for just one or two of you. If you've been to therapy or you've done any kind of healing work, even off your own back, this could represent having some huge breakthroughs. The kind of breakthroughs where everything clicks into place and you look back and you realize like you're not the same person that you were a few weeks ago, 6 months ago, whatever the case may be. It's as though I'm getting your ship is finally coming into harbour and instead of you guys constantly trying to survive the storm, it's like you're able to start planning where you want to sail next because the seas, the waters are calmer. And this could also show up in some much smaller ways, like, maybe it shows up by you just beginning to speak up for yourself more, or, maybe you're just experimenting with your appearance because your confidence is returning. And like, if you've gone through a depression for months and it's been a challenge to even get up in the morning and brush your hair and brush your teeth, it feels good to finally get some autonomy where you're able to like care about putting effort into your appearance again. It can even show up in small things like that don't seem like a huge deal on the surface, but you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, like I have the energy today to dye my hair or style it or something, and that is a massive breakthrough in and of itself. Maybe you take a risk for the first time in a long time because you are actually trusting yourself to figure things out as you go. For some reason, I'm also getting something about solo dates or spending time on your own, and it's absolutely categorically not because you're lonely. Especially because we have that Two of Cups, like the universe always has your back, or this portal is showing you that the universe always has your back. But it could even be like you meet someone special and you're dating, but you're also enjoying your own company or something like that. Obviously, it's going to be different for everyone depending on where you're at on your journey. But it's like, I'm not saying you're going to be alone is what I'm saying. I'm just saying you're going to enjoy your own company. It feels like you guys are rebuilding trust in yourself and life starts feeling more exciting than it does threatening. So yeah, there was fear and there was threat, and I'm going to give quite an extreme example here because I think it'll help explain the energy. And do I need to give a trigger warning? Like, I'm not going to go into that much detail, but just be aware in case I bring anything up that anybody has gone through. Trigger warning for assault. Obviously this isn't going to apply to everybody. It might just apply to one person. It might not even apply at all. But like, I'm imagining somebody who, always loved previously going out on their own, like going for walks or to classes or to meet friends or solo traveling, and then one day they experience something deeply traumatic, like being attacked by a stranger. And afterwards, they became terrified naturally of leaving the house because their nervous system was trying to protect them, like as you would do. And it felt like it ruined their life. Like they were devastated, like because that was the one thing they loved doing, and they felt like it was taken away from them. This portal feels like that person slowly reclaiming their autonomy. And it's not because, what happened doesn't matter anymore, it hasn't shaped them, because it does and it has. But that person no longer wants to let, their attack or their attacker define them and who they want to be. And over time, they decide they can't let that fear be the thing that dictates the rest of their life. So maybe it takes months, maybe it takes years, but when they are ready, they take one tiny step and then another and then another. And it's scary, it's terrifying, but they keep going because, that warrior woman spirit inside them refuses to disappear. But it can be something much smaller than that too. It doesn't have to be that example. It could be something that requires bravery, like bravery and confidence, like returning to work after maternity leave and wondering whether you've still got what it takes, because you felt like you've been out of your job for so long and you've been in like parent mode that you're not sure if you can do it. Or, it could be stepping back into the world and socializing after a period of illness or grief or burnout. It could be going dating again after your divorce and you feel sort of like out of your depth because you've not done this in a long time because you were married for a long time, but you're doing it anyway. You're feeling the fear and doing it anyway in your own way, in whatever way feels safe for you. Whatever your version of this is, feels like your life is about to get bigger again. You've reached rock bottom, but now you're climbing back up. And it's like little by little, you're finding yourself looking towards the horizon with more excitement than fear. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts this portal is bringing you guys. And with the Four of Cups, clarified by the Page of Cups, it feels like this portal is bringing a genuine change to your day-to-day life. It seems like you guys are breaking out of a routine that's become kind of stagnant, or out of an emotional space that maybe at one point did genuinely serve you, but now it's almost as though you've outgrown it. Because there's this feeling of you saying like, I don't actually want to keep doing this anymore. You don't want every day to feel the same. And you don't want to stay in this place of, feeling like you're constantly declining opportunities or focusing on everything that's gone wrong instead of what could go right. Even if those feelings have been completely valid based on what has happened, and even if they have reflected your reality for a really long time, this feels like you're ready for something different now. You're pulling yourself out of like some self-imposed stagnation. Now, when I say self-imposed, I want to be careful with that because I don't want to undermine what you've been through. It's going to be different for every person, especially, if there was something traumatic. Like going back to the example I mentioned earlier, if somebody has experienced something like being attacked or becoming the victim of something deeply painful, then of course it makes sense that they would need to retreat for a while. It makes sense that purely survival would become the priority. But whatever your story is, whether it's something bigger or smaller, I think you guys are reaching a point where you are beginning to say, like, I actually don't want this to define the rest of my life. And it's, again, not because it wasn't real, but because you are ready for life to become bigger again. I'm also wondering whether this portal is like something about allowing you to grieve so that you can move on, because I wonder whether some of you haven't fully allowed yourself to grieve prior to this, because it's like you've spent so much of your life at being the warrior and being strong because you're so good at doing that and proving it. It almost feels like some of you guys have skipped over the vulnerable part and you went straight into like self-preservation and protection mode. Maybe there wasn't really a safe place to put all of that anger or disappointment down, so it just kind of sat there. And if those feelings don't have somewhere healthy to go, they can slowly turn into bitterness without us even realizing. And a really sort of obvious example of that would be something like betrayal. Again, trigger warning for betrayal. This doesn't have to apply to you, it's just an example. But imagine if you found out your partner had been cheating on you, or a close friend had completely betrayed your trust. Because you're so used to being on guard and fighting your own battles, your first reaction could have been like, fine, get out, like I knew I couldn't trust you anyway. And you pack up their things and you tell them to leave, and outwardly it looks like you're completely unbothered and already over it. You almost look too strong. But underneath that, you have still lost something, you've still been hurt. And I think sometimes because you're so capable, Pal 5, of protecting yourselves, you accidentally convince yourself that you don't need to process what happened because You know, you're like, oh, well, that person isn't worth my tears. But this isn't really about them. It's about you. Yes, they might not be worth your tears, but you are worth it. You deserve the chance to process. And of course, you know, if somebody crosses one of your boundaries in a significant way, yeah, you're going to be angry. Of course, you're disappointed. That anger isn't something to ever be ashamed of. It's actually proof that you know you deserved better. That anger tells you, this shouldn't have happened. This isn't how I should have been treated. So it's okay to sit with that. It's okay to admit that you're hurt. It does not by any means make you weak. And it doesn't mean you're letting them win. If anything, I think it's actually one of the bravest things you can do, because some of you find it much easier to be strong than you do to be vulnerable, even when you're completely on your own. If those feelings never get acknowledged, they have a habit of coming out sideways. That's the thing. They can show up as escapism, or constantly trying to distract yourself, or looking for ways to avoid sitting with what's really underneath all of it. And they can also show up as like wanting to fight fire with fire. And let's be honest, Pal Fav, you absolutely know how to answer back. You know, you guys are probably very quick-witted. You probably know exactly where to hit somebody where it hurts with your words. And if you wanted to win an argument, you could, no doubt about it. But I don't actually think that's where your energy is meant to go. Your guides keep bringing me back to this image of taking all of that fire that you've been carrying and turning it towards yourself instead. Not in a destructive way, but in a creative way. Like, instead of pouring all of that energy into the person who hurt you or the situation that hurt you, imagine what it would feel like to pour it into your own healing, into your projects, into building this life that you're genuinely really excited to wake up to. I think that's what feels different about this portal. The fire, the anger, it's not disappearing, but it has somewhere much healthier to go. And I'm getting a really specific example now. Like, I'm imagining your friends inviting you out because they know you've been having a hard time, and, you know, they ask you to come to dinner or to the cinema or something, or they ask you to just come out with them and get out of the house for a bit. But every time you say like, no thanks, I think I'll stay in tonight, and then you spend the evening scrolling through your ex's social media trying to work out what they're doing with the person they cheated on you with, and, you know, getting more upset and more bitter and more trapped in that same cycle. And it almost feels like this portal comes along and it's saying like, what if tonight you just went with your friends? Like, what if instead of feeding the wound again, you let yourself experience something different and you poured your energy into the people and things that matter? Obviously, it doesn't have to be that example, but this is where that Page of Cups energy comes in. It feels like the antidote to everything we've just spoken about. You know, it opens the door to vulnerability in a way that feels safe. It could also be somebody opening up to you emotionally, or just a new opportunity arriving that makes you genuinely curious again. It could even be something creative, like writing or painting or making music, especially with that music card, you know, where all of those feelings you've been carrying have somewhere to go. And you might not feel inspired straight away, but once you begin, I actually think it becomes one of the healthiest ways you've ever found of processing what's been sitting inside you. This card also feels like it wants you to fall in love with life again, not in a sort of massive dramatic way, like everything is perfect, but in lots of small ways. You guys could be receiving some happy news around the time of this portal. Somebody could also confess that they have feelings for you. You might also get invited somewhere unexpected, or you could just find yourself saying yes to something that a few days or weeks or months ago you would have immediately dismissed. But whatever it is, it feels like your heart is opening up again. There's this part of you that still believes in love, and that still believes in beauty, and that still wants to like imagine and create. And I feel like that's part of you is getting the space to just exist and to live again. And honestly, after everything else we've seen in your reading, I really do think you, of all people, have earned that. This is about allowing yourself to be happy and be loved. Then we have your oracle cards, and first of all we have this number 53, use your hands. And I just love this because I think it ties so nicely to everything we spoke about right at the beginning of your reading. Because remember when I said I was getting something about moving your body? This feels like kind of the same thing, maybe in a slightly different way, but it's encouraging you to get hands-on with something, get physically involved with something, to create something, to use your body instead of staying stuck inside your own mind. You know, for some of you, this could literally be taking a class. It could be pottery, crafts, cooking, gardening, going to the gym, lifting weights, anything where your hands and body are sort of working together, and it gives your mind a chance to sort of quieten down. Some of you, even something like how do I word this on YouTube? Self-pleasure. Self-pleasure is coming through because, you know, that's still a way of reconnecting with your body and gaining autonomy instead of staying trapped inside your thoughts. It feels like this portal is encouraging you to come back into the present moment by engaging with your physical body and all that it's capable of instead of constantly replaying everything that's happened. I'm also getting something about boxing, or I don't know, something very physical like rock climbing, or maybe like an adrenaline sport that's coming through, like doing something scary, something a bit adventurous. And then with this disconnect card, the first thing I want to say, are some of you like getting a haircut, or are you going for like a more extreme haircut than usual? Like, I'm getting the phrase big chop, like you're cutting off all your hair or something. I don't know, that might just apply to one person. But yeah, this disconnect card, it could absolutely be talking about that disconnected feeling we have spoken about, you know, that sense of apathy with the Four of Cups, that feeling of like withdrawing from life for a while because you've just had so much to carry. But I actually think this card is kind of trying to show us what is happening next. Like, this portal is helping you essentially disconnect from the things that have been keeping you stuck. And I'm especially thinking about like a digital detox here. Maybe you've been consuming content online that is making you feel increasingly angry or fearful. Like, maybe you've been doing a lot of doom scrolling or consuming newsreels, or maybe constantly checking on a person who hurt you, or, you know, filling your mind with things that leave you feeling disconnected from your own body and your own self and your own power. And it feels like Spirit is just saying, what if you just switched off for a while? Not because you're trying to avoid reality. Like, yes, it's important to stay informed, but sometimes we can do it too much. It can go too far in the other direction. And they're saying your attention is so precious, and the passion and the fire you have inside you is so precious. Your anger is precious. And it's saying the more you pour it into things that drain you, the less energy you have left for the life you're trying to build and the life you deserve. This feels like you're severing ties with whatever has been holding you back. Like, if something has had these invisible strings attached to you for a while, sort of playing you like a puppet, whether that's a person or a habit or a belief or just a particular way of thinking, it feels like this portal is helping you sever and cut those strings. It's cutting those ties, and the focus shifts away from everything that has been taking your energy and back onto the things that actually deserve it. And then we have endurance, and, you know, I don't think there's a better word to describe your reading and just who you are as a person, Petal 5, because you're very resilient, you have endured, and this card feels like your guides are acknowledging everything you have survived. And it's almost like they're looking back over your journey with you and saying, like, look how far you've already come, because they know you've been through some incredibly difficult chapters, but you are still here, you kept going, you were patient when you needed to be patient, even if you didn't think you were patient enough. You were persistent when life asked you to be persistent, and no matter how many times life knocked you down, it never completely took you out, because you are that warrior woman spirit. And this portal isn't reminding you to become resilient, it's reminding you that you already are, like, you've already done it. If you've made it through everything you've already lived through, then you can absolutely handle whatever comes next. That is going to be, I'm hearing small fry or small fish, I don't know, that's going to be small fry compared to what you've already been through, and the journey isn't over here. Like, in many ways it feels as though it's only just beginning. And finally, we have this music card, which I think is an absolutely beautiful card to end on, because I'm just sensing so much joy in this card. This portal could literally, like very literally, introduce you to new music, a new song that you love, a new artist, a new album, just new sounds, or even new instruments. Some of you might actually feel inspired to learn an instrument or to write lyrics or to create music yourself, which I think would tie in very beautifully with that use your hands message. But even if none of that applies, I think music is simply becoming another way for you to reconnect with yourself. You might suddenly find yourself really paying attention to certain lyrics, or discovering songs that seem to describe exactly what you're going through, songs you can really relate to. Or you might find yourself putting together a completely new motivational playlist. I'm getting like a feminine rage playlist. Maybe you're bored of listening to the same music over and over again, like you're bored of skipping every song on your playlist, and so you create a new one. But more than anything, I think this card feels like it's inviting you to find joy in the small moments again. Like, whether that be sort of dancing around your kitchen while you're making dinner, or singing along with songs on the radio when you're in the car, or putting your headphones on when you go for a walk. These little moments where you completely forget the things that have been weighing on you, because for a few minutes you are fully immersed in something that makes you feel alive again. Because that's what music does for us. Music is healing for the soul. And I really feel like that's a beautiful place to end your reading because, you know, after everything we've spoken about, it feels like this portal isn't just opening the door to big life changes, it's also reminding you that healing is often found in those small and ordinary moments that slowly bring you back to yourself. So that is what I'm getting for your reading today, Pile 5, and that's where I'm going to leave you today, my loves. I really, really hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope it resonated for you, even if it's just in a tiny way. If anything whatsoever from this reading did resonate with you, please let me know what that is below in the comments. Or if you don't feel comfortable letting me know what resonated, just let me know which pile you picked. I genuinely love hearing from you guys, even if it's just to like leave an emoji or something like that. That helps a tiny creator and a small channel like mine more than you could ever know. Other ways to support me are by liking, hyping, subbing, and sharing the video. Any one of those things would help me more than you could ever know. With that said, if you don't get a chance to do any of those things, I just want to thank you so much for being here and for listening and for spending this time with me. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one, Pal 5.